Chapter 499. Who did it? Jiang Qin's eyes drooped slightly as killing intent erupted from his body. The second holy son of the radiant god cult, Wei Xian. Nayland Mayer said, Wei Guang is dead. Wei Xian is now the first holy son of the radiant god cult and is known as the holy son of the radiant god cult. Where is he? Jiang Qin asked. The fifth small world, Nayland Mayer said. Ever since Wei Guang's death, Wei Xian had become the first holy son of the radiant god cult. Now, he had roped in several peerless geniuses and started to clean up people related to Jiang Qin. Wakako entered the fifth small world so quickly. Jiang Qin was puzzled. With Wakako's cultivation, it shouldn't be so fast. He obtained the inheritance of some ancient sect, and his strength increased greatly, Nayland Mayer said. But at this point, Nayland Mayer also let out a long sigh. She also believed that Wakako was most likely dead. At this moment, Jiang Qin didn't say much. He stood up and looked into the distance. He whispered, "It's time to start the battle." However, just 3 breaths later, he saw 2 youths flying over. The holy Sun Songming is here again? That's the golden blood tiger, Jin Xuanhao. Exclamations sounded from all around. Everyone's expression changed as they felt a terrifying killing intent emanating from the 2 youths. Seeing this, Jiang Qin's eyes narrowed. He said to Nayland Mayer and the others, "Let's go first." Why? It's just 2 people. Hua Liani frowned. Wasn't Jiang Qin being too careful? One had to know that there was still Luo Shui. At the very least, there was still war dancer Nayland Mayer. Could it be that they couldn't beat the holy Sun Songming and the golden blood tiger, Jin Xuanhao? Jiang Qin smiled bitterly. He looked up at the brilliant sun hanging high in the sky and knew that the person controlling the body was Luo Yang. Without Luo Shui, Luo Yang and Hua Liani were clearly no match for holy Sun Songming and Jin Xuanhao. Of course, Jiang Qin still had Barbarian Bear on his side. However, although Man Xiaoxiong called Hua Liani's sister Hua, he wouldn't be willing to risk his life. In fact, Man Xiaoxiong had already fled with his men when he saw Saint Sun Songming and Jin Xuanhao. "Let's go. Let's meet in the fifth small world," Jiang Qin said solemnly. After he finished speaking, Jiang Qin charged out as if he wanted to fight Holy Sun Blue Sea and Jin Xuanhao by himself. "Let's go. Master, buy me more time." "He'll be fine," Hua Liani said, but there was still a trace of worry in her eyes. "He's the reincarnation of godly King Tianqun. He'll be fine." Luoyang was very confident in Jiang Qin. They then retreated and left. As for Holy Sun Songming, his first goal in coming here was to kill Jiang Qin. As for whether he could take Luoyang away, he didn't care. After all, he and Luoyang had already shed all pretense of cordiality. If the 2 of them met in the future, they might have to fight to the death. "Jiang Qin, you still dare to come here?" Holy Sun Songming said disdainfully. "Let's see who can help you today." "Oh, this is the reincarnation of godly King Tianqun?" Jin Xuanhao's eyes narrowed as he carefully sized him up. A trace of contempt flashed in his eyes as he said, "Isn't he too weak? Heh, if he didn't have someone helping him, I would have already killed such an ant." Holy Sun Songming said coldly. He was still brooding over the previous battle. At this moment, Jiang Qin didn't say anything. He secretly set up an array. When he rushed in front of Holy Sun Songming and Jin Xuanhao, the array formed under his feet, and his figure instantly disappeared. "Still want to run?" Holy Sun Songming was furious. He formed seals with both hands and used a secret technique. A black poisonous snake entered the void. Soon he sensed Jiang Qin's aura. He then stepped into the void with Jin Xuanhao and chased after him. Half an incense stick of time later, Jiang Qin escaped from the void and arrived at this small world's trial grounds. Of course, this small world's trial grounds were actually those few palaces. Jiang Qin could be considered to have passed the trial long ago. Now that he came to an altar, he immediately stepped into the next small world. After a dozen breaths of time, Holy Sun Songming and Jin Xuanhao caught up. After looking around, they also stepped onto the altar and chased after him. After Jiang Chen entered the fourth small world, his face couldn't help but darken. He secretly cursed his bad luck. He was actually randomly teleported to the most famous forbidden land in the fourth small world, the Endless Sky Forest. This place was an ancient ruin. It was said that a deity had once undergone nirvana here. There were also rumors that a great demon was buried under the Endless Sky Forest. In short, no matter what the rumors were, the Endless Sky Forest was extremely dangerous. Not only were there terrifying demonic beasts, but there were also some unknown creatures that were extremely powerful. There were even some demonic beasts that were not weaker than Heaven Realm experts. Buzz! At this moment, not far from Jiangchun, a trembling sound could be heard as the void split open. Holy Sun Songming and Jin Xuanhao were also teleported here. Moreover, the distance between the three of them was only 100 meters. However, this distance of 100 meters caused the three of them to become serious. The three of them didn't even dare to breathe loudly. This was because in that 100-meter area between the three of them, there was a huge snake that was the color of a withered leaf. This huge snake had 9 heads, and its body was like a bucket. When it was asleep, it emitted the aura of a Heaven Realm expert. Ancient ferocious beast, the withered leaf 9-headed beast. Jiangchen was shocked. He was glad that he didn't move recklessly earlier. If he accidentally woke up the withered leaf 9-headed beast, he was afraid that he would be swallowed whole. At this moment, Holy Sun Songming and Jin Xuanhao did not dare to move. Even if they were geniuses, even if their cultivation had reached the upper level of the God realm, they still had to be obedient in front of the withered leaf 9-headed beast. For a moment, the scene became silent. None of the three of them dared to move. After half an incense stick's time, the three of them were sweating profusely. They stood still and did not move at all. However, at this moment, the space beside Jiang Chun cracked open, and then a young man was teleported here. "What is this place?" The young man shouted as soon as he appeared. This sentence caused Jiang Chun, Holy Sun Songming, and Jin Xuanhao's expressions to change drastically. Their eyes were filled with fear. Roar! At this moment, a roar was heard. Under everyone's shocked gazes, the withered leaf 9-headed beast was awakened. Damn fool! Holy Sun Songming was furious. He stared at the young man who had just been teleported here. He raised his hand and shot a dark spear at him, directly piercing through him. After that, Holy Sun Songming no longer cared about Jiangchun. He turned around and ran. Jin Xuanhao ran in the other direction, his face dark. Jiangchun also did not dare to stay. He knew how cruel the withered leaf 9-headed beast was. He used ground shrink and ran away. Stupid human! The withered leaf 9-headed beast was awakened. It was as if it was angry when it woke up. With a roar, its 9 heads split apart and turned into 9 rays of light. 3 rays of light formed a group and chased after Jiangchun, Holy Sun Songming, and Jin Xuanhao. Chapter 500. What the F*** CK? How is that possible? Jiangchun exclaimed, looking at the 3 snake heads chasing after him. His heart was in his throat. On the other side, Jin Xuanhao was filled with regret. If he had not followed Saint Sun Song Yen to find Jiangchun, he would not have encountered such a situation. The ancient ferocious beast, the withered leaf 9-headed hydra, was said to be the descendant of the heaven-devouring hydra. However, due to its impure bloodline, it was expelled by the heaven-devouring hydra. Such a ferocious beast was rarely seen since ancient times. Who would have thought that there would be such a beast in the fourth small world of the bloody path? Now, the withered leaf 9-headed hydra was chasing after Jiangchun and the other 2. It had split into 3. It did not want to let any of them go. Oh no! What's going on? Half an incense's time later, Jiangchun, Saint Sun Song Yin, and Jin Xuanhao met at a corner of the Heaven Extinction Forest. At this moment, the 3 of them were dumbfounded. That was because the 3 snakeheads were following behind them. This place is strange. It seems to be going in circles, Jin Xuanhao said in a low voice. I was heading north. How could I have met you? Is it impossible to get out of this heaven extinction forest? Saint Sun Song Yin frowned, his heart trembling. Jiang Chen didn't speak. He just used the shrinking ground to an inch technique again and jumped past Saint Sun Song Ming. Saint Sun Song Yin did not have time to care about Jiang Chun and brushed past Jin Xuanhao. Just like that, after the three of them met, no one made a move. They ran for their lives again. However, after half an incense's time, the three of them met again at the same place. This time, Jiang Chun was irritated. He thought to himself, "Have I entered a maze? If this continues, we will be devoured by the withered leaf, nine-headed hydra sooner or later." Jin Xuanhao's face darkened. He pressed his hands on the ground, and earth walls rose from the ground, forming a cage that sealed the three of them. Roar! Roar! Outside the earthen wall, a series of roars could be heard. The entire earthen wall was shaking, and cracks began to appear on it. The three of us work together. Otherwise, no one will be able to leave this place alive, Saint Sun Song Yin said in a deep voice. His gaze then landed on Jiang Chun. "You are the reincarnation of God King Tian Chun. You know more than the rest of us. Hurry up and think of something." "Why?" Jiang Chun raised his eyebrows. "What's my relationship with you? Why should I help you? If you don't help me, then let's die together." Saint Sun Song Ming roared furiously. His eyes were bloodshot, as if he was about to go berserk. When Jiang Chun heard that, he also felt extremely bitter in his heart. It really wasn't a good time to fight Holy Sun Song Ming. After all, Withered Leaf Nine Heads was still chasing after them. There are dragon veins everywhere. The dragon head faces north, and the dragon tail faces south. Jiang Chun said solemnly, "Find the dragon vein. Once you find it, follow the dragon vein and leave. Hurry up." Jin Xianhao's face was slightly pale. The wall that he had created with his spiritual energy was about to collapse. Escape! At this moment, Jiang Chun no longer hesitated. He formed a seal with both hands and slapped them on the bodies of the two. Then, the three of them escaped underground and began searching for the dragon vein. However, what they didn't expect was that the nine heads chased after them again. Moreover, an extremely terrifying aura appeared and approached them. It was Withered Leaf Nine Heads' true body. "Where are we going to find the dragon vein in such a big place?" Saint Sun Song Ming said in a deep voice. "We have to find it even if we can't. Do you want to be swallowed by Withered Leaf Nine Heads?" Jiang Chun said unhappily. "Why aren't you looking for it?" "How? I've never found the dragon vein before." Jin Xianhao frowned. He had never encountered the matter of finding the dragon vein before. However, he muttered, "I do know how to sever the dragon vein." When Jiang Chun heard that, he asked casually, "How? Have you severed it before?" "I don't have the strength to do so," Jin Xianhao said as he searched for the dragon vein underground. "However, my ancestor told me that the Barren State's dragon vein was severed by someone." Jiang Chen's expression froze. He had long known about the matter of the Barren State's dragon vein being severed. Who did it? Did they have such a huge grudge against the Barren State? One had to know that severing the dragon vein of a state was equivalent to destroying the fate of the state. If the fate of the state was destroyed, the state was destined to decline. Just like the current Barren State, there weren't many deity state experts. In the other large states, not only did they have deity state experts, but they also had celestial realm experts. This was the difference after the dragon vein was severed. The people of the Barren States severed it themselves, Jin Xianhao said. At that time, they even asked a few top experts from other states to work together to sever the dragon vein of the Barren State. When these words came out, Jiang Chun couldn't help but be stunned. He couldn't believe it. The people of the Barren State severed the dragon vein of the Barren State on their own. Moreover, they even asked people from other states for help. What were they doing? Weren't they destroying their own path of retreat? I only heard that there was something sealed in the dragon vein of the Barren State. That thing was about to be born. Later on, the people of the Barren State had no choice but to sever the dragon vein along with that thing, Jin Xianhao said. "Why are you saying this? Have you found the dragon vein?" Songming Holy Sun said in a low voice. He felt that the terrifying aura was getting closer and closer to them. Why are you in such a hurry? Even if we can't find it, the three of us can die together, Jiangchen said unhappily. It's not like you're the only one who will die. What bad luck! Songming Holy Sun cursed. The power of darkness around him surged, bursting out in all directions deep underground. Jiangchen also released his divine consciousness, constantly probing the dragon vein. After the time for half an incense stick to burn, Jin Xuanhao exclaimed with surprise, "Is that a dragon vein?" At this moment, Jiangchen and Songming Holy Sun hurriedly rushed over. When they arrived beside Jin Xianhao, they saw an underground cavern in front of them. Inside the cavern, a reddish-gold radiance flickered. There were even divine lights that turned into runes that floated in the cavern. Jiangchen couldn't help but get excited when he saw this. He said, "This is where the dragon vein is." Immediately, the three of them rushed into the cavern. However, when the three of them saw the scene inside the cavern, their hair stood on end. Even Jiangchen was extremely shocked, his whole body trembling. Looking around, the reddish-gold radiance and divine lights that they saw before were actually layers of restrictions and seals. Behind these restrictions and seals was a sea of corpses. Inside, there were mountains of bones, rivers of blood, and countless severed limbs scattered all over the ground. That's the dragon vein? Songming Holy Sun's eyes flashed. He saw a black dragon head at the bottom of the mountain of bones. Upon closer inspection, the dragon head held a dragon tail in its mouth. F***CK? Danger zone? Jiangchen was shocked. The dragon's mouth held the tail, forming a circle. This meant that if they followed the dragon vein, they wouldn't be able to get out. Moreover, dragon veins were formed by auspicious energy. They were usually gold or white, never black. What did a black dragon vein mean? It meant a land of death. Chapter 501. The dragon vein had turned into a mortal enemy, and when the dragon tail crossed, it was a land of evil. One could only enter and not leave this place. This sky forest can't leave? Holy Sun Songming said in a low voice. According to the situation of the dragon vein, this place should be cursed or sealed, Jin Xuanhao guessed. Under normal circumstances, such a situation would not happen to a dragon vein, unless it was man-made or some kind of disaster had happened here. This place might be a cage, Jiangchen said in a low voice. Jiangchen had seen the secret of the bloody path in the scripture depository. This was a sealed land, and a living being or a group of living beings was sealed here. Then, where was this group of sealed living beings? Could it be here? However, there was no one here, and not a single living being could be seen. It was a land of death. Could it be that all the living beings sealed here were dead? Withered Leaf 9 heads didn't chase after us? At this moment, Jiangchen and the other two discovered something. Since they had entered the place where the dragon vein was, Withered Leaf 9 heads had disappeared. He hadn't entered this place. Could it be that even Withered Leaf 9 heads did not dare to enter this place? That was a heaven realm, ancient ferocious beast. How many places in this world did it not dare to enter? Let's find a way out first. If we are trapped here, our lives will be over. Holy Sun, Songming said in a low voice. I don't want to die of old age here. No one wants to die, Jiangchen said in annoyance. Then, they approached the dragon vein and saw that there was a coffin under it. However, the coffin lid was open, and there was nothing inside. This, Jin Xuanhao's eyes narrowed. There was nothing in this coffin to begin with. Or, did the thing buried in this coffin escape? We are all cultivators. What are we afraid of? Holy Sun Songming said, but he still felt a chill run down his spine. This coffin was obviously suppressed under the dragon vein. It should have been suppressed by the dragon vein's power. Since that was the case, there must be a living being in this coffin. Otherwise, how could the dragon vein's power suppress a coffin? Who would do such a thing? It seems like the blood path really isn't simple, Jiangchen thought to himself. His eyes flashed with the brilliance of the sun and moon. His hands formed a seal as he tried to deduce what had happened here. 10 breaths of time later, Jiang Chen's forehead was covered with sweat, and his body was trembling. At the same time, a rumbling sound could be heard in front of him. In the next moment, a blurry scene appeared. In the image, a blood-red coffin was suppressed under the dragon vein. More than 100 people had worked together to seal the dragon vein and the heavenly forest. When the blood-colored coffin was suppressed, lightning descended from the heavens and blood flowed from the earth. The wailing of ghosts echoed through the clouds. Heavenly thunder ghost wail. Holy sun blue, sea exclaimed. The being inside the coffin is a sinner. They have done unforgivable things to the godless continent and even the heavens. Jin Xuanhao said in a deep voice. Only a great sinner would cause such a phenomenon. At this point, the scene ended. However, Jiang Chun was still deducing. He wanted to see how the coffin was opened. After another half an incense stick of time, the scene appeared again. This time, the coffin shook violently. The dragon vein was corroded by the darkness and turned black. Then, countless people entered. Under their joint efforts, they wanted to seal the coffin again. However, not long after, the coffin lid was shaken open, and a being surrounded by black fog appeared. Next, a great battle unfolded. This battle, to be precise, was a one-sided massacre. The being that rushed out of the coffin was too strong and cruel. He had killed the people who had come to seal him, sucked their blood essence, and devoured their cultivation. In the end, all that was left was a ground full of bones and a sea of blood. What is this being? Jin Xuanhao's expression was ugly. Those people who came to seal him were all in the heaven realm. A one-sided massacre? Is this being a god? Saint Sun Songming could not help but tremble. Then his gaze fell on Jiang Chun and asked, "You once became a god. You should know that gods can't enter the godless continent, right?" Yes. Jiang Chun nodded. He was also very puzzled. One had to know that cultivators who could enter the heaven realm were all peerless geniuses. At the same realm, the difference in combat strength would not be too great. However, the creature in the coffin was able to slaughter these celestial realm cultivators. Even a celestial blight 5th decay powerhouse could not block a single palm from him. Then, what level had this being's cultivation reached? Was he a god? Holding a spear in one hand and a shield in the other, stepping on black clouds and wearing a bone crown, at the last moment of the scene, Jiang Chun and the other two finally saw the appearance of this being. Of course, its face was still so blurry. Could it be him? Chang'an. At this moment, a name appeared in the minds of Jiang Chun and the other two almost at the same time. Chang'an. Whether the world was in chaos or not, the Chang'an clan had the final say, and the first ancestor of the Chang'an clan called himself Chang'an. This person left very little impression on the later generations, but those who knew him knew that the Chang'an clan symbol was holding a spear and shield, stepping on black clouds, and wearing a bone crown. Only this person looked like the vicissitudes of the world. Could it really be the first ancestor of the Chang'an clan? Jiang Chun thought to himself. Then he thought of Nian Chang'e. One had to know that Nian Chang'e was a member of the Chang'an clan. His surname was Nian, but in fact, Nian Chang'e's real name was Chang'an Chang'e. This was such a twisted name. But the meaning of this name was profound. The edge of the earth, the peak of the sky, slaying gods on the great Tao. God-slaying spear, sky-covering shield. Only my Chang'an clan can become an immortal. At this moment, at the last moment before the scene disappeared, an extremely loud and domineering voice sounded. It was a voice that had been separated by the vicissitudes of time, recorded by the great Tao. It really is him, the first ancestor of the Chang'an clan, Chang'an. At this moment, Jiang Chun and the others were shocked. They did not expect to see this legendary figure here. However, they were even more puzzled. What had the first ancestor of the Chang'an clan done in the past? Why was he sealed here? Could it be that the first ancestor of the Chang'an clan was really a great sinner? Impossible, right? Although the people of the Chang'an clan can cause chaos in the world, I've never heard of the Chang'an clan harming the godless continent, nor have I heard of the Chang'an clan harming the heavens. Jin Xuanhao frowned. He felt that this matter was not so simple. Something happened to him. He should have left here, Jiangchen said. Then, how did he leave? There must be a way. Otherwise, how did he leave here? Songming, Holy Sun, said. Chapter 502. After Chang'an was unsealed, he left this place. Jiang Chun and the rest thought that since Chang'an could leave this place, there must be a way to the outside world. How did those people who came to seal Chang'an come in? Did they not plan to leave after coming in? Jin Xuanhao asked. With that said, Jiang Chun was even more certain that there was a way out here. But where was this path? Look carefully, Jiang Chun said. Either we stay here and wait for death, or we leave together. I don't want to die here, Song Yin said. Holy Sun, Song Yin said in a low voice. This is a glorious era. I have yet to set out, so how can I die here? This place, is there really a way out? Jin Xuanhao suddenly asked with a strange expression. Those who came here are all celestial realm cultivators. They can break through with absolute strength. As for us, Jiang Qin came to himself when he heard that. Chang'an and the people who came to seal him were all celestial realm cultivators. And Chang'an's strength was even more frightening. With such strength, they could break through by force. Why would they need to walk? As for Jiang Chun and the rest, they could not break through by force. Then, did they break through by force? Or is there really a way out here? Song Yan's expression was ugly. He did not want to be trapped here. Let's find it first. Jiang Chun was also anxious. It was not easy to be reborn. If he were to be trapped here and die of old age, Jiang Chun would not be willing. Jiang Chun would rather be killed in the outside world than wait for death here. This coffin. At this moment, Jiang Chen's expression froze. He stared at the coffin and asked, "Where's the coffin lid?" "Lid? What do you mean?" Jin Xuanhao and Song Yin were stunned. They were looking for a way out. What did that have to do with the coffin lid? The coffin is still here. Why is the lid gone? Jiang Chen frowned. As the saying went, there was a reason for everything. Jiang Chen didn't believe that the coffin lid would disappear for no reason. Could it be that it has something to do with the coffin lid? Jin Xianhao's eyes narrowed as he placed his hands on the ground and shouted, 10,000 souls search. Wang! As soon as he finished speaking, thumb-sized beetles appeared in the area. These beetles rushed out from the void and covered the entire dragon vein in a dense swarm. A dozen breaths later, Jin Xuanhao said excitedly, "Found it." After saying that, Jin Xuanhao rushed out and arrived in front of one of the skeletons. After pushing aside the bones, a bronze coffin lid was lying there. Upon closer inspection, the coffin lid looked very ordinary. There were no patterns on it, but Jiang Chen didn't think so. He activated the eyes of yin and yang, the eyes of sun and moon. He squinted and soon saw obscure runes on the coffin lid. These runes had been concealed by someone using a special method. These are teleportation runes. Jiang Chun was excited, but found that the runes were incomplete. Maybe this coffin lid is a teleportation array, Jiang Chen said. But how do we activate it? Jin Xuanhao frowned and looked at Saint Sun Songming. Both of them were helpless. They didn't understand arrays and could only stare at the coffin lid helplessly. I'll do it, Jiang Chen said. If we can get out, the two of you will owe me a favor. I don't want to owe anyone a favor, Saint Sun Songming said coldly. At most, I'll promise you that I'll spare your life after we get out. Let's get out first, Jiang Chen said. Then, Jiang Chen observed the runes and slowly formed seals with his hands, beginning to repair the teleportation array. However, this was a teleportation array from ancient times. The runes were complex and obscure. Jiang Chen used a full 10 days to repair a corner. At this speed, it would be difficult to repair it without 3 to 5 months. How much longer? Saint Sun Songming couldn't wait and said in a low voice, "At this speed, by the time we get out, those people will have already walked out of the 10th small world and entered a small world. If you're in such a hurry, why don't you do it? Jiangchen glanced at him and said angrily, "These are ancient runes. How can they be repaired so easily? Don't worry. It's already like this. What's the point of being anxious?" Jin Xuanhao smiled bitterly. "We'll be lucky if we can get out." Saint Sun Songming also understood this, but he was really anxious. After looking at Jiangchen for a while, he frowned, as if he was anxious and worried. Then he started to wander around. They had been in the dragon vein for a long time and hadn't encountered any danger. Therefore, the three of them thought that this place was very safe. However, just as Jiangchen was repairing the runes, Saint Sun Songming suddenly exclaimed, "There's a hole here!" Saint Sun Songming exclaimed, Can it be a passage to the outside world?" As soon as he said this, Jiangchen and Jin Xuanhao hurriedly rushed over. When they came to a pile of bones, they saw a hole that was about the height of a person behind it. In front of the hole, there were pairs of footprints covered in dust. Clearly, someone had entered this hole a long time ago. However, no one knew where this cave led to. "Let's go in and take a look," Jin Xuanhao said. "We don't know what's inside," Jiang Chun said in a low voice. "Let's wait. Once I've repaired the runes, we can get out." "How long do we have to wait? Why don't we go in and take a look?" Saint Sun Songming said. "We've wasted too much time here. Moreover, we can't cultivate here. By the time we get out, those bastards outside will have already surpassed us in cultivation. At that time, we'll be lambs waiting to be slaughtered." Jiangchen couldn't help but nod. Saint Sun Songming was right. However, did this hole really lead to the outside world? "You guys go ahead. I'll stay here and repair the runes," Jiangchen said. "Let's go. The two of us will go in," Saint Sun Songming said to Jin Xuanhao. The two of them were bold. After exchanging glances, they stepped into the hole. Jiangchen didn't follow them in. He returned to the coffin lid and continued to repair the runes. 5 days later, Jiangchen had repaired most of the runes. However, he felt more and more that something wasn't right. This was because the runes on the coffin lid were becoming less and less like runes. They looked like ancient characters. Jiangchen frowned. After careful observation, his expression changed greatly. He suddenly turned around and looked at the hole. His back couldn't help but break out in a cold sweat. This was because, according to the ancient characters on the coffin lid, there was a cage in the depths of the hole. A great demon comparable to Chong and was locked up inside. "It's been 5 days. Why haven't the two of them returned?" Jiangchen whispered. The runes on the coffin lid weren't teleportation runes. Continuing to repair them was meaningless. Now he had to think of another way. Chapter 503. Run! At that moment, Jin Xuanhao's voice came from the cave entrance. Then, Jin Xuanhao and Saint Sun Song Yin rushed out, covered in blood. They did not say anything and rushed out of the dragon vein. Jiangchen didn't ask any questions. He just followed her and dashed out. A few moments later, a shocking roar could be heard coming from the dragon vein. Demonic auras surged like black clouds covering the sky. "What did you do?" Jiangchen said in a low voice. "There's a great demon locked up inside," Jin Xuanhao said with lingering fear. "That great demon has awakened." "And then?" Jiangchen asked. "That great demon is very strong," Saint Sun Song Yin said with a strange expression. "He might be able to break out of this sky forest." Jiangchen was also stunned. He had a bad feeling and asked, "You release that great demon? What else can we do? With his strength, we can leave this damn place." Saint Sun Song Yin said, "Wait. After that great demon is released, he will definitely leave this place. At that time, we could follow behind him and leave." Saint Sun Song Yin and Jin Xuanhao had a good idea. They could leave the sky forest with the help of that great demon. But would that really work? Roar! After half an incense stick's time, Jiangchen and the other two rushed out of the ground and hid in an ancient tree, hiding their auras. The three of them waited, wanting to see what that great demon would do next. Finally out. After another half an incense stick's time, a deafening roar came from the ground. Then, demonic aura rushed into the sky, dimming the sky. Then, a burly man rushed out from the ground and flew toward the sky. However, when he flew 1,000 meters, he suddenly heard a muffled sound, as if he had hit something. He clutched his forehead and fell from the sky, roaring angrily at the sky. He can't get out. Jiang Chun was stunned. He looked at Saint Sun Song Yin and Jin Xuanhao and said, "There's a barrier in the sky. He's a great devil. His cultivation is at heaven's blight 5th stage. How could he not be able to leave?" Holy Sun Song Ming said in a deep voice, "Just wait. He will definitely be able to charge out. You want to trap me with a mere heaven-sealing technique? What a joke." At this moment, the great demon laughed coldly. Then, he opened his mouth and the surrounding heaven and earth yuan qi rushed towards his mouth. Moreover, everything around him withered. Even the creatures that lived in the heaven end forest had their lives taken away. In just a dozen breaths of time, the area within 100 miles of the great devil had been turned into a barren wasteland. Grass, trees, birds, and insects were all dead. They were sucked dry of their essence and turned into dried corpses. Moreover, the great demon didn't stop. Its mouth opened and closed as it continued to absorb the surrounding essence. We're going to be sucked dry by him before we even get out. Jiang Chun said in a low voice as he quickly flew into the distance. Holy Sun Song Ming and Jin Xuanhao were also shocked. A great demon was indeed a great demon. He was completely unreasonable. Evil creature, stop messing around. At this moment, outside the heaven end forest, an old man flew over. This was the old man that Jiang Chun had seen in the scripture depository, Lin Suori. He stood outside the heaven end forest and roared angrily. A palm print pierced through the void like a rainbow and headed straight for the great demon. Lin Suori. The great demon seemed to know Lin Suori. With a roar, it opened its mouth and swallowed Lin Suori's palm print. Then, it let out a satisfied burp. What the F*** CK? This, we shouldn't have let him out? At this moment, Holy Sun Song Ming and Jin Xuanhao were completely dumbfounded and terrified. Lin Suori was at the Heaven's Decay 5th stage. The power of his palm was enough to overturn mountains and seas and suppress an area. But now, not only did Lin Suori's palm not cause any harm to the great demon, but it was also swallowed by the great demon. Then, what was the great demon's cultivation level? A bunch of traitors. When I come out, I'll massacre all 18 of your families. The great demon said coldly and pointed at the ground. Chang'an has come out. It's my turn now. Zaitsong, you can't come out? Lin Suori said in a low voice. He waved his hand and sent a seal into the air. In a few breaths, the void around Lin Suori cracked open and 8 Heaven's Decay 5th stage powerhouses appeared. They were the strongest powerhouses of the 18 families in the Bloody Path. When I was at my peak, you were nothing. The great demon Zaitsong said disdainfully. Even now, you're still ants in my eyes. Zaitsong, you're not Chang'an. You can't get out. Lin Suori said coldly. Zaitsong, I've been waiting for you for a long time. Suddenly, a young man flew over from afar. He was covered in a layer of mist that seemed to cover the chi of heaven and earth. No one could see his face clearly. He walked over step by step, then waved his hand and broke the barrier above the heaven and forest. You're Chang'an? At this moment, Lin Suori and the others cried out in surprise. Their faces were full of fear. Although they could not see the young man's face clearly, they could feel his aura. They were sure that the young man was Chang'an. Ha! I knew you wouldn't leave. Zaitsong laughed wildly. He stepped forward and arrived in front of the young man. Soon, Zaitsong said softly, How did you end up like this? I'm injured. Chang'an said softly, but his tone was arrogant. He said to Lin Suori and the others, I want to take Zaitsong away. Do you dare to stop me? This is the Bloody Path. Lin Suori said, the strongest powerhouses of the 18 families will be here soon. Then, the 2 of you will be sealed again. Is that so? Chong, and said softly. He suddenly formed a seal with his hands, and the shadow of a palace appeared behind him. Then, under the horrified gazes of Lin Suori and the others, Chong and took Zaitsong into the void and disappeared into the palace. Damn it, he ran away. At this moment, Lin Suori and the others were furious, but they could not leave the bloody path. They seemed to have something they could not say. They could only curse a few times and then leave. Jiang Chun and his two companions witnessed all of this. They each had their own ideas. The barrier is broken. We can go out now, Jin Xianhao said with lingering fear. We barely escaped with our lives. Chong didn't leave? Has he been in the bloody path all this time? Song Ming, the Holy Sun, said softly. Is there anyone in this world who can defeat him? At this moment, Jiang Chun was silent. This was because when he saw the young man, Jiang Chun knew who he was. When the palace appeared behind the young man, Jiang Chun was even more certain that the young man was him. You hid so well, Jiang Chun said softly. His emotions were complicated. He did not say much. He did not want to say much. It was only because Jiang Chun knew he probably had something he couldn't say. Chapter 504. Everyone had left, and the restrictions and barriers of the Sky Extinction Forest had been broken. At this moment, Jiang Chun stood up and retreated. His eyes were fixed on Saint Sun Song Ming and Jin Xuanhao. These two people originally came to kill him. Previously, because they were trapped in the Heaven's End forest, they joined forces. Now that they had escaped, the relationship between them had naturally returned to its normal state. Aren't you going to run? Saint Sun Song Ming stared at Jiang Chun and chuckled. If you don't run, you will definitely die. I want to run, Jiang Chun said directly. He did not feel ashamed. After all, Saint Sun Song Ming and Jin Xuanhao were both at the upper level of the deity realm. Moreover, they were peerless geniuses who were about to step into the deity realm. With the two of them joining forces, how could Jiang Chun contend against them alone? Moreover, even if it was one-on-one, Jiang Chun would find it difficult to fight them. However, when Jiang Chun looked at Saint Sun Song Ming, he found that there was no killing intent in his eyes. Today, I will let you go, Saint Sun Song Ming said. The next time we meet, I will definitely take your life. Oh? Why? Jiang Chun asked curiously. In any case, we have experienced life and death together, Saint Sun Song Ming said. So be it. Saint Sun Song Ming looked at Jin Xuanhao and said, Let's go. We have wasted so much time here that we have fallen behind the group. Jin Xuanhao nodded. He waved at Jiang Chun and said mockingly, The next time we meet, I want to spar with you and see how strong the reincarnation of deity King Tianqin is. Jiang Chun shrugged his shoulders indifferently and curled his lips into a smile. The next time we meet? The next time we meet, we don't know who will suppress who. Finally, Saint Sun Song Ming and Jin Xuanhao left. Jiang Chun also flew towards the trial grounds. He did not want to stay here for long because he did not know whether Wakako was dead or alive. Of course, in Jiang Chun's heart, Wakako had fallen into the immortal pit and was definitely dead. What he needed to do now was to find Wei Xian and avenge Wakako. Because they had wasted too much time in the Sky Extinction Forest, there was basically no one left in the Fourth Small World. When Jiang Chun arrived at the trial grounds, there was no one in sight. Come to think of it, during this period of time, those who survived must have entered the later small worlds. It was to the extent that some people might have already finished traversing through 10 small worlds and entered the middle section of the Bloody Path, a minor thousand world. It was said that the lesser thousand world was a forgotten world. There were also rumors that the small Kiliacosm was once a complete world like the Godless Continent. However, a great calamity had once occurred in that world, causing the world to be shattered and become incomplete. Of course, none of this was important to Jiang Chun. At this moment, Jiang Chun was sitting cross-legged outside the trial grounds, calmly cultivating. He knew very well that with the strength of a saint, it was impossible for him to avenge Wakako. Only by increasing his cultivation base could he fight against those immortal state geniuses? Jiang Chen's cultivation speed was very fast, and he had stepped into the saint stage for a long time. Now, 3 days later, Jiang Chen opened his eyes. His aura skyrocketed, and auspicious clouds appeared above his head. The sky was densely covered with tribulation clouds. He had broken through. Facing the tribulation, Jiang Chen was very calm. He did not even look at the tribulation clouds. He still sat cross-legged on the spot and continued to cultivate. Allowing the lightning to strike him, Jiang Chen did not move. 2 hours later, the tribulation clouds disappeared, and Jiang Chen's aura stabilized at the lower Holy Ruler stage. At the same time, strands of divine light spread out from the invisible door of the Great Path in his body. It was as if there were fragments of the Great Path rushing out and merging with Jiang Chen. Jiang Chen carefully sensed, but he could not comprehend anything. However, he felt that as these fragments of the Great Path merged with his body, his battle strength became stronger. Previously, because he cultivated the incomplete heavenly manual, he had severed his own blade, and his battle strength had decreased greatly. Now, Jiang Chen's battle strength had not only recovered, but it was also stronger than before. Jiang Chen was even confident that if he met an ordinary cultivator at the lower Holy Ruler stage, he would definitely be able to suppress them. The fifth small world. I'm coming. Wakako, I will avenge you. Jiang Chen's eyes narrowed. He suddenly stood up and stepped into the trial ground. The trial in the trial ground wasn't difficult for Jiang Chen at all. He didn't have anything to say about it. After half an hour, Jiang Chen passed the trial, stepped onto the altar, and entered the fifth small world. From the fifth small world onwards, the teleportation was no longer random. Everyone who entered the fifth small world would be teleported to an ancient city. This ancient city was called the Lone City. This was because there was only one ancient city in the entire fifth small world. Moreover, there was a legend in the Lone City. Legend had it that a long time ago, a prodigy had once been born here. He dominated his peers and suppressed all prodigies. He had yet to finish walking the bloody path, but he had already dominated his peers. He was very lonely and arrogant, and he had also become famous here. Therefore, from then on, this ancient city was also called the Lone City. After Jiang Chen entered the Lone City, he hid himself. This was because Wei Xian and the others were chasing after Jiang Chen and those related to Jiang Chen. In the entire Lone City, the streets and alleys of all sizes were filled with portraits of Jiang Chen, Wakako, Xiao Qingyi, and the others. It was obvious that Wei Xian wanted to kill Jiang Chen and his companions. I heard that not long ago, Wei Xian led a group of experts to kill Xiao Qingyi. If Wudong hadn't made a move and fought to the death, Xiao Qingyi would have died. Isn't that so? Wei Xian is extremely powerful now. He has joined forces with several peerless prodigies and has more than 3,000 followers. After arriving at the Lone City, Jiang Chen heard a lot of news, and all of this news was related to Jiang Chen. However, Wei Xian isn't feeling well either. He's fighting with the 3 great devils and was almost killed by Chun Lu Dao not long ago. Jiang Haoran, Chun Lu Dao, Lu Songyang. These 3 devils are too terrifying. Not long after, Jiang Chen heard about the relationship between Jiang Haoran and the other 2 in an inn. These 3 people seem to have taken the initiative to find Wei Xian's alliance and fought with them in order to help Jiang Chen. However, the result was not unexpected. The 3 of them retreated with heavy injuries, only seriously injuring Wei Xian. However, I heard that ever since the tyrant Wakako fell into the immortal pit, there have been changes in the immortal pit. There are often profound lights that fly out from the immortal pit, and sometimes even some immortal gold. Right now, everyone with strength has gone to the vicinity of the immortal pit. After all, the immortal gold is too tempting. A thumb-sized piece of immortal gold can be forged into a divine artifact. There's a change in the immortal pit? Jiang Chen thought to himself. The immortal pit was like a stagnant pool of water. There wouldn't be any changes in 10,000 years. What was going on now? Could it be related to Wakako? Could it be? Wakako isn't dead? Jiangchen thought as he quietly stood up, planning to go to the immortal pit to take a look. Chapter 505. No one had ever come out of the divine pit alive, not even heavenly human realm cultivators. However, the divine pit, which had been stagnant since ancient times, had changed in this generation. Was there a secret behind all this? Moreover, many people thought of one thing, and that was that the changes in the immortal pit only appeared after Ruo Xiao entered. Was all this related to Wakako? Jiang Chun did not dare to hesitate. He hurried through the night and arrived near the divine pit on the morning of the second day. Looking around, there was a mine in front of him. In the middle of the mine, there was a bottomless pit. That was the divine pit. Normally, no living beings would come to this place. Just looking at it from afar would make one's heart palpitate. But now it was packed with people. In twos and threes, in groups of 3 to 5, there were also thousands of people gathered here. There were even peerless geniuses from the 7th and 8th small worlds who came back just to see the changes in the divine pit. Ever since Wakako fell into the divine pit, there would be auspicious signs and divine gold in the pit every once in a while. Someone said, "Is it related to Wakako?" No living being who enters the divine pit can survive. The changes in the divine pit should have nothing to do with Wakako. Wakako? I guess there's nothing left of him. It was very noisy all around. Everyone was talking about the divine pit. Jiangchen changed his appearance and stood in the crowd. His eyes shone with the light of the sun and moon as he stared at the divine pit. He wanted to use his yin-yang eyes, sun and moon eyes, to see the secrets in the divine pit. Unfortunately, the divine pit was very strange. It seemed to be able to conceal the aura of the great path of heaven and earth, making it impossible for people to see the truth inside. Have you heard? Someone said that an ancient divine king is buried in the divine pit. I heard that too. It's said to be a divine king from the antiquity age. At this moment, someone in the crowd spread the news. Instantly, more people began to discuss who the divine king was. But soon, the place quieted down, because Lin Suori had appeared. He was one of the ancestors of the 18 clans in the blood path. His cultivation was extremely strong, and he should have come here because of the changes in the celestial pit. As he appeared, everyone quieted down. They all wanted to hear what this powerhouse had to say. This is a great fortune. After a few breaths, Lin Suori opened his mouth. His voice was soft, but everyone could hear him clearly. He coughed a few times and slowly said, "An ancient sect is buried in the celestial pit. This sect was sealed a long time ago. Looking at the celestial pit now, the seal should have loosened. Perhaps it won't be long before that ancient sect reappears. That sect's inheritance and treasures will all appear." When everyone heard this, they could not help becoming excited in their hearts. The inheritance of an ancient sect? Treasure? Senior, what is this sect called? Someone asked. This person was the holy son of an extremely prosperous sect. He didn't lack cultivation techniques, martial skills, or treasures. Therefore, he only wanted to know the name of this ancient sect. Absolute, Lin Suori said. Just the word absolute did not sound interesting, but many people's expressions changed greatly after hearing this word. Someone even exclaimed, "Absolute sect?" The prosperous sect that dominated the godless continent for tens of thousands of years in the Desolation Age. Absolute sect. Is it really absolute sect? Why would such a powerful sect be sealed here? Oh my God! Is it really absolute sect? If I can get the inheritance of absolute sect. At this moment, exclamations continued to ring out. Some people's eyes were burning with passion, while others were calm. However, there was greed in the depths of their pupils. Even Jiang Chun was moved. Absolute sect, the strongest sect in the Desolation Age. Senior, as far as I know, although absolute sect was destroyed in the end, the ruins of absolute sect are not here, right? At this moment, a young man spoke and frowned. I heard the elders in my family mention absolute sect. The ruins of absolute sect are in the central state. How can this old man lie to you little dolls? Lin Suori raised his brows and said, "Believe it or not, it's up to you. If you have the confidence and have the time, you can wait here. Maybe you can really get the inheritance of Absolute Sect." "The ruins of Absolute Sect. Seems like it's really not here," Jiangchen secretly said. Back then, before Jiangchen ascended, he was already invincible in the godless continent. At that time, Jiangchen felt very bored. So he played around, explored some ancient ruins, and flipped through some ancient books. It was also at that time that Jiangchen inadvertently learned that the ruins of Absolute Sect seemed to be in a forbidden area in the central state. Then, in this immortal pit now, was it really the ruins of Absolute Sect? This Lin Suori's words can't be fully believed either. Jiangchen thought and planned to wait and see first. Next, Lin Suori left. It was unknown what his purpose of coming here was. Was it just to tell everyone that this immortal pit was the ruins of Absolute Sect? That old man's words can't be believed. Someone secretly transmitted, reminding everyone, saying, "I can be sure that the ruins of Absolute Sect are in the central state, and definitely not in the bloody path." But the changes that happened in the immortal pit, how to explain it? Someone asked. Once these words came out, it made the group of people speechless. How to explain it? If they knew, would they still need to wait here? Quickly look. What is that? Suddenly, someone screamed, only to see a cloud appear above the immortal pit. Inside the cloud, there seemed to be something bobbing up and down, emitting rays of divine light, and even the sound of great Tao sounded out. "That's a divine artifact," someone exclaimed. Divine artifact was the name of the most powerful weapon in the godless continent. Only those sects with long inheritances and deep foundations would have a divine artifact. Chinquan bag? Seems like it's really a Chinquan bag. After more than 10 breaths, the cloud dissipated. A ragged bag that looked very coarse appeared in front of everyone. Very similar to what was recorded in the ancient books. This ragged bag can be a Chinquan bag? Impossible, right? Since the antiquity age, no one in the world knows how to refine a Chinquan bag. Whoosh! Just as everyone was discussing, there was a sound of something breaking through the air. They saw a young man rush out, heading straight for the Chinquan bag. "How dare you?" Someone shouted angrily. Naturally, they would not give the Chinquan bag to others. The next moment, more and more people rushed out, heading straight for the Chinquan bag. However, there were still many people who stood in place, not moving an inch. At this moment, Jiangchen trembled slightly because he saw what it was at a glance. That was not a Chinquan bag at all, but a soul-devouring bag. Chapter 506. The Chinquan bag was a divine artifact made from many heavenly treasures mixed with Chinquan immortal gold. This kind of divine artifact flowed with divine light, emitting the aura of nothingness. Although the Chinquan bag also had holes, those holes were circular, meaning that the sky was round. But the soul-devouring bag was different. The soul-devouring bag looked no different from the Chinquan bag, but the holes on the bag were square, meaning the place. Moreover, the soul-devouring bag was not made of heavenly treasures and immortal gold, but human skin. The Chinquan bag could contain all things in the universe, and the soul-devouring bag could devour living souls. This was an extremely vicious divine artifact, and it was forbidden to refine in the desolate antiquity era. Now, the soul-devouring bag could no longer be seen in the world. But what was unexpected was that a soul-devouring bag actually appeared above the immortal pit. Moreover, there were thousands of people rushing over at this moment. "All have to die," Jiangchen sighed. Once these people got close to the soul-devouring bag, their souls would be sucked away, and even the essence in their bodies would be sucked dry. "This is not a Chinquan bag." "Ah!" At this moment, screams came from the vicinity of the soul-devouring bag, full of fear, only to see that the thousands of people seemed to be imprisoned, their bodies unable to move, frozen beside the soul-devouring bag. Their essence flowed out of their bodies like a tide, rushing into the soul-devouring bag. Following that, many people screamed. their souls were extracted and put into the soul-devouring bag. This is something that flew out from the immortal pit. Why is there a soul-devouring bag? The people around exclaimed, feeling even more terrified. What kind of terrifying thing was in the immortal pit? Any random thing that flew out was an extremely vicious soul-devouring bag. A group of greedy people, rushing over without seeing what it is, really courting death. Greedy people must have something hateful. They deserve to die. A few peerless geniuses mocked, standing in the distance as if watching a show. Jiang Chun didn't say anything. He just watched quietly. At the same time, Jiang Chun was also thinking, what was in this immortal pit? Was the ruins of the absolute sect really in the immortal pit? Was Wakako, who fell into the immortal pit, safe and sound now? That is Cosmos Sack. After the time for half an incense stick to burn, all the 1,000+ people that charged over earlier had their souls sucked away without exception, and they transformed into dried corpses that were blown away by the wind and transformed into ash. But at this moment, someone exclaimed. This was because another pouch had appeared beside the soul-devouring pouch. And on this bag, divine light flickered, and the hole on top of it was circular. There was even an aura of nothingness pervading the air. This is a real Chinquin bag. Jiang Chen's expression changed. He couldn't be mistaken. Beside the soul-devouring bag was a real Chinquin bag. However, no one dared to make a move, let alone take a step forward. This was because there was a soul-devouring pouch beside the Chinquin pouch. Once they got close, their souls would be sucked dry, and their essence, energy, and soul would be sucked dry. Withdraw! Suddenly, a shout came from not far away. A young man reached into the void with one hand and formed a seal with the other. As the word withdraw was uttered, an invisible hand appeared and landed on the Chinquin bag. The next moment, under everyone's shocked gaze, the young man withdrew his hand from the void. At the same time, a Chinquin bag appeared in his hand. Telekinesis! A member of the Steel Sect? Someone exclaimed. Some people even dashed toward the disciple of the Steel Sect. The Chinquin bag was a divine artifact, which could contain everything in the universe. Even a powerhouse of the celestial realm could not remain calm when facing such a thing. However, the disciple of the Steel Sect was very smart. After getting the Chinquin bag, he dashed into the void and escaped directly. Some people chased after him, while others hesitated for a while and chose to give up. That was because the disciples of the Steel Sect were very good at stealing. Their movement skills were so good that, under normal circumstances, people of the same cultivation level could not catch up with them. The soul-devouring pouch fell into the immortal pit. Someone exclaimed when they saw the soul-devouring pouch fall into the immortal pit. And they saw the soul-devouring pouch open. The souls, essence, energy, and soul that had been sucked in before were poured into the immortal pit, as if they were worshipping something. Strange. Is there any living thing in the immortal pit? The souls, essence, energy, and soul that had been sucked in by the soul-devouring pouch have been released. What is it worshipping? While the people were guessing, the soul-devouring pouch flew into the immortal pit again. Then, the soul-devouring pouch suddenly expanded like a big black mouth. The next moment, a terrifying pulling force burst out and swept in all directions. Someone is controlling the soul-devouring pouch. Who is it? Many people shouted angrily, for they knew the soul-devouring pouch couldn't move without wind. Someone must be controlling the soul-devouring pouch secretly. Now, the soul-devouring pouch had apparently exploded. It was going to suck up all the souls, essence, energy, and soul in the surrounding area. Run! Let's go! The people panicked and started to retreat. However, at this moment, a barrier suddenly rose up within 100 miles around the immortal pit. The barrier was covered with obscure runes, and it was filled with the chi of Tao. Some people tried to rush out, but they were blocked by the barrier. Some people attacked violently, but they found that their attacks could not break the barrier at all. It's a trap. Someone is setting it up. They want to kill us. Only now did the people react. First, they spread the news that there was a change in the immortal pit. Then, they showed the cosmos sack and soul-devouring pouch, making people mistakenly think that something good was about to appear in the immortal pit. As a result, it attracted a large group of geniuses. Now that the trap was set, it was time to reel in the net. A headless man, a living being, came out of the immortal pit. At this moment, someone screamed, his eyes full of fear. Jiang Chen also looked towards the immortal pit when he heard that. Jiang Chen panicked as soon as he saw it. Above the immortal pit, a figure wearing an ancient robe appeared. There was no aura emitted from his body, as if he was immortal. Moreover, this person was headless. However, many people could feel that this living being was very strong. Under his calm appearance, there was an extremely terrifying power hidden. However, this living being did not attack. On his feet, there were 2 chains that led straight to the bottom of the immortal pit. It was as if this living being was sealed in the immortal pit. It's all nourishment. Suddenly, the headless living being spoke, and his voice seemed to come from the void. As his voice fell, the soul-devouring pouch expanded again, like a cloud that covered this part of the world. In the next moment, many people were pulled over and entered the soul-devouring pouch. Their souls, essence, energy, and soul dissipated in an instant, all devoured. Chapter 507. Barriers rose all around, sealing off this part of the world. Everyone wanted to leave, but to their horror, they realized that the barrier was far too sturdy, like a rock. Even heaven's favorites in the upper level of the immortal realm found it difficult to break this barrier. In the sky, the soul-devouring pouch was like a cloud that blocked out the sun and continued to absorb everyone's soul and spiritual energy. They want to kill us all here. How cruel! Who set this up? Everyone was shocked and fearful. They all realized that the change at the pit of the immortal was a trap. But it was too late to realize this now. Headless living being, pit of the immortal. Jiang Chen frowned. He felt that the pit of the immortal gave him a strange feeling. It was like déjà vu. At this moment, Jiang Chen looked at the headless living being and then at the soul-devouring pouch in the air. After a few breaths, Jiang Chen's heart skipped a beat. Broken images appeared in his memory. They were incomplete memories. In these memories, Jiang Chen saw a man who was tall and sturdy and could support both heaven and earth. Like a god, he supported the heavens with his hands and stepped on the earth with his feet. He was fighting against a group of strange-looking living beings. This man was very powerful. He shattered the void and cracked the heavens. But in the end, he was outnumbered and defeated by those strange-looking living beings. However, this man's physical body was indestructible and his soul was not destroyed. Those living beings tried everything they could, but could not kill this man. In the end, the image changed. The man's head was chopped off, and he was sealed in a void. As for his physical body, it was thrown into a deep pit. This headless living being is that man? Jiang Chen was shocked. But what did this have to do with him? Could it be that when the man was fighting, Jiang Chen was beside him? When did I see this? Jiang Chen frowned. He felt that his identity was getting weirder and weirder. It was as if he had reincarnated a few times. If I really die here, wouldn't that be too sad? Jiang Chen sighed. He had checked the barrier and found that it was not something he could open. So, if he stayed here, he could only wait for death. He hadn't even reached the deity realm, and he hadn't even stepped into the deity realm yet, but he had already been set up and killed here. This was too sad for Jiang Chen. He would rather die in a battle than wait for death here. Bastard. Suddenly, Lin Suori led a group of heavenly human realm cultivators to this place. With his angry roar, the barrier to pieces. Instantly, the group of heavenly human realm cultivators dismay, not to stay here for a second. Even those peerless geniuses at the upper level of the immortal state didn't dare to stay any longer. That was because the soul-devouring pouch. Lin Suori, you traitor. At this moment, Sworry, 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 sworry. You are a sinner. You should sleep forever. Lin Sworry shouted angrily. Then, he and the other celestial realm experts formed seals one after another. Following this, a seal landed on the headless creature like a golden mountain tablet. Roar to roar! A heaven-shaking roar came from the headless creature's body. He seemed to be very unwilling, but he could not stop it. In the end, he fell into the divine pit, along with the soul-devouring pouch. Senior, you said before that this place was the ruins of the Absolute Sect. Someone said in a low voice, why would such a creature appear? How do you explain the soul-devouring pouch? This is obviously a trap. Who set it up? Someone asked. Obviously, some people were suspecting that Lin Sworry was the one who set up the trap. What's more, it was set up by the 18 clans on the Bloody Path. One had to know that the people who entered the Bloody Path did not have the ability to set up such a huge trap. However, if it was really a trap set up by Lin Sworry, why would he help them escape? The ruins of the Absolute Sect are indeed inside the immortal pit. This headless creature is a sinner and is sealed in the divine pit. Lin Sworry explained, this place is too dangerous. You should leave. You asked us to wait here for the inheritance of the Absolute Sect to appear, and now you want us to leave. Senior Lin, what do you mean? Someone said in a low voice, feeling that Lin Sworry's behavior and words were a little strange. Even Jiang Chun frowned secretly. He glanced at Lin Sworry from the corner of his eye, thinking that Lin Sworry might be hiding something from them. However, he was a celestial realm expert and the ancestor of the 18 clans on the Bloody Path. If he did not want to say it, who could force him to? All of a sudden, Jiang Chun squinted his eyes. He saw a black shadow disappear into the void where the immortal pit was. Jiang Chun did not see it clearly, but he had a feeling that the black shadow was very familiar. At this moment, Jiang Chun got up and flew in the direction where the black shadow disappeared. After the time it took for half an incense stick to burn, Jiang Chun saw a familiar person on a lonely mountain. Ruo Xiao. You. That black shadow was you? Jiang Chun exclaimed, and was even more excited. Yes, it was me. Wakako turned around and found that he was missing an eye. Logically speaking, as a cultivator, if their physical bodies could be reforged, then even if they were missing an eye, they could still reforge it. For someone at Ruo Xiao's level of cultivation, they could even reforge an eye in an instant. But he did not do so. I used an eye in exchange for a life. Wakako sighed. A trace of fear flashed across his face, but he quickly recovered his calmness. He stared at Jiang Chun with one eye. After a moment of silence, he asked, the Bloody Path is a cage that seals a group of sinners. Did you know that? You know that too? Jiang Chun narrowed his eyes and said, who told you that? Him. Ruo Xiao said softly. She looked towards a mortal pit, saying, he said that he doesn't have a head, so he can't see anything. That is why he asked to borrow an eye from me, saying that he will return it to me when he is born. Him? Immortal pit? Jiang Chun was moved and exclaimed, that headless creature? His name is Yumuba. Wakako said, you should have heard of the name Yumuba, right? At this moment, Jiang Chun was stunned on the spot because he could not believe that the headless creature was actually Yumuba. That was a supreme expert from the ancient times who had once unified the godless continent. Logically speaking, such an expert should have ascended to the 9th heaven divine realm. How could he be sealed here? The Bloody Path is not as simple as you think. Wakako sighed, we have all been deceived. What 18 families guarding the Bloody Path? They are all fake. What do you mean? Jiang Chun hurriedly asked. The people who truly guard the Bloody Path have all been sealed. Wakako said, Chang'in, Zaitsong, Yumuba. They are the ones who truly guard the Bloody Path. They are the ones who guard this cage. Then, what are the 18 families? Jiang Chun asked, but he already had an answer in his heart. Those 18 families are the sinners who are locked up here. Wakako said, they secretly attacked and injured Chang and Zaitsong and Yumuba, sealing them in the Bloody Path. As expected, Jiang Qin whispered. He finally understood why no one was allowed to enter the third floor of the scripture pavilion. It was because the 18 families of the Bloody Path were afraid that this secret would be leaked out. Chapter 508. The third floor of the scripture depository had a special rune imprint that prevented the 18 families from entering. Previously, Jiang Chun was very puzzled as to why the 18 families, as the guardians of the Bloody Path, were unable to enter the third floor of the scripture depository. Now that he thought about it, that was how it was. But can Yumuba's words be trusted? Jiang Chun frowned. There was no concrete evidence at all. Furthermore, in order to escape, Yumuba had set up a trap to kill so many geniuses. This kind of behavior made Jiang Chun have no choice but to suspect whether Yumuba's words were true or false. Wakako was also silent. He did not completely believe Yumuba's words. However, there was no need for Yumuba to lie to Wakako. Perhaps I should ask someone, Jiang Chun said. Who? Wakako was curious. This matter was of great importance. Who would know the secret within? One had to know that if Wakako had not entered the immortal pit, he would not have known about this matter. As for Jiang Chun, although he had guessed it, he did not dare to be sure. Jiang Chun did not know much about the secrets of the blood path. He should come find me, Jiang Chun said softly. Let's not talk about this for now. What should we do next? Wakako said in a deep voice, his eyes flashing with killing intent. He had been chased by Wei Xian and the others and had fallen into the immortal pit with heavy injuries. This debt had to be settled. Cultivate first, Jiang Chun said straightforwardly. Right now, Wei Xian has joined forces with a large group of geniuses. Just his followers alone number more than 3,000. Even if we find everyone, it will be difficult to contend against them. What's more, you've also seen my cultivation. Jiang Chen's face turned red. He thought to himself that his cultivation speed was already fast enough, but why was he always lagging behind others? If not for his powerful battle prowess, Jiang Chun would have died long ago. You cultivate first. I'll secretly contact them. Wakako said, it's time to gather everyone. Okay, I'll wait for you here, Jiang Chun said. After that, Wakako left. Jiang Chun set up a formation here to hide his aura and traces. Then he began to cultivate in peace. Time elapsed slowly. Jiang Chun was focused on his cultivation and focused on nothing else. 10 days later, on this day, a young man came here with a panicked expression. He said bluntly, something happened. Wakako sent you? Jiang Chun frowned. Only Wakako knew that he was here. But now, instead of Wakako, another person had come. Then did something happen to Wakako? Hualyini, Nayla Mayer has been suppressed by the Wei Xian alliance. The young man said in a deep voice. Wakako, Xiaoqingyi Wudong, and the others have already gone to rescue her. What? Jiang Chun narrowed his eyes. He never thought that such a big thing would happen in 10 days. Wei Xian has already said that if you go, they will release you, the young man said. If you don't go, Hualyini and Naylan Mayer will be killed. Then how are they now? Jiang Chun asked. They're fine now. They're imprisoned on the 18th stage. The young man said. After all, Naylan Mayer is related to the Martial Pavilion. Wei Xian won't really do anything out of line to them. Furthermore, their actual goal in suppressing Naylan Mayer and Hualyini is you. When Jiang Chun heard this, he heaved a sigh of relief. However, very quickly, Jiang Chun's heart throbbed. As a cultivator, he could predict some good or bad signs. And now, the sudden throbbing in his heart caused Jiang Chun's eyebrows to twitch. He knew that something must have happened again. Let's go. At this moment, Jiang Chun didn't dare to hesitate. With a light shout, he walked towards the 18th stage with the young man. The 18th stage was a relic. However, there was nothing left in the ruins, so there was no danger. Now, these 18 stages could be considered the garrison of the Wei Xian alliance. After walking for half a day, Jiang Chun arrived near the 18th stage. Looking around, there was a tall mountain in front of him. However, It had been cut open by a sharp weapon and turned into 18 high platforms. The high platforms were connected to each other, as if it was a path to the heavens. Looking carefully, the 18 stages were filled with people from the Wei Xian alliance. At the peak of the 18 stages, Jiang Chen saw Hua Liani and Naylan Mayer tied to a stone pillar. Beside the two of them, Wakako and Xiao Qingyi were also imprisoned. Their bodies were covered in blood, and their injuries looked very serious. Wudong, on the other hand, was nowhere to be found. She should have retreated. Jiang Chen, you have guts. You really dare to come? At this moment, at the peak of the 18th stage, Wei Xian saw Jiang Chen. His voice was like thunder, shaking the surroundings. Jiang Chen didn't try to hide anything. He stepped forward and walked slowly toward the 18 platforms. I'm here, Jiang Chen said softly. He looked at Wei Xian and said, let them go. I've always kept my word, Wei Xian said with a smile. With a push of his hand, he pushed Hua Liani and Naylan Mayer out of the 18th stage and landed beside Jiang Chen. Master, don't go, Hua Liani hurriedly said, her eyes filled with worry. They were all clear that Wei Xian wanted Jiang Chen's life. Now, the people of the Wei Xian alliance were all here. Among them, there was no lack of peerless geniuses at the upper level of the divine realm, as well as thousands of followers. These people, even if each of them spat a mouthful of saliva, it would be enough to drown Jiang Chen. If Jiang Chen went over, he would die without a doubt. And the two of them, why don't you let them go? Jiang Chen ignored Hua Liani. Instead, he looked at Wakako and Xiao Qingyi and said, you didn't keep your word? I've always kept my word. Wei Xian chuckled. But I only said that since you came, I would let the two of them go. As for these two, I never said that I would let them go. You should be satisfied. If it wasn't for Naylan Mayer's special identity, I wouldn't have let any of these two women go, Wei Xian said coldly. Hearing this, Jiang Chen frowned. He stared at Wei Xian and asked, speak. What do I have to do to let them go? It's very simple. Cripple your own cultivation and kneel in front of me from below the 18th stage. Wei Xian said, if that's the case, I can let the two of them go. When these words were spoken, Jiang Chen's face immediately darkened. Crippling one's cultivation and kneeling in front of Wei Xian? This is going too far. However, Jiang Chen was someone who valued friendship and loyalty. He couldn't ignore Wakako and Xiao Qingyi. However, with Jiang Chen's current strength, if he were to forcefully charge in, not only would he die, even Wakako and Xiao Qingyi would die. This time, will you keep your word? Jiang Chen said in a deep voice. Ha! Jiang Chen, don't tell me you're really going to kneel in front of me? Wei Xian suddenly laughed wildly and said, I'm really looking forward to it. The dignified reincarnation of divine King Tian Chun is actually going to kneel in front of me. I'm really excited. Boss, leave. Don't worry about us. At most, we'll just die. Wakako and Xiao Qingyi were anxious. If Jiang Chen really crippled his own cultivation and knelt down, then even if Jiang Chen didn't die, he wouldn't be able to raise his head in the future. Furthermore, everyone knew that if Jiang Chen went over, he would definitely die. Brothers are like hands and feet, Jiang Chen said softly. If my hands and feet are gone, what do I need this person for? Chapter 509. With that, the power in Jiang Chen's body suddenly went berserk. He was really planning to cripple his cultivation, stealing the sky and sun. However, suddenly, a voice that sounded like a duck's throat rang out. Immediately after, the space around Wakako and Xiao Qingyi distorted, and a raging flame erupted. The raging flames were like red vines, wrapping up Wakako and Xiao Qingyi and pulling them into the void. This sudden change caused Wei Xian and the others to be dumbfounded. They had set up formations and restrictions in the surroundings. Under normal circumstances, it was impossible for anyone to break through here. Moreover, It was under the circumstances where no one knew. Have you all opened your eyes to the methods of my bird Beta? At this moment, 100 miles away from the 18 platforms, Bird Beta walked out of the void. Beside him, Long Dade and Huang Dade stood side by side. Behind him, Wakako and Xiao Qingyi were lying there. Although their injuries were severe, at least their lives were saved. 3 Beta, Wei Xian said coldly. A dragon, a phoenix, and a vermilion bird. Heh, refining the 3 of you into a cauldron of pills is a great supplement. Beside Wei Xian, a black-clothed youth narrowed his eyes filled with greed. What a joke! How can mere mortals like you contend against us, the 3 virtues? Long Dade's face was proud and aloof. However, just as he finished speaking, the 3 Beta grabbed Wakako and Xiao Qingyi and directly escaped into the void. The Green Mountains will always exist, and the green water will always flow. We'll meet again. Huang Dade's voice came from the void, and he shouted at Jiang Chun, "Boss, let's go." Go? You can leave. But he can't. Wei Xian was furious. With a wave of his hand, thousands of followers rushed towards Jiang Chun. Jiang Chun formed a seal with both hands, and the teleportation array formed. He pushed Hua Liani and Naylan Meir into it, and teleported them far away. Then, Jiang Chun stood up. Just as he was about to step into the teleportation portal, he realized that ripples had appeared in the air. Under the ripples, the teleportation array collapsed. Within a radius of 500 kilometers, barriers appeared one after another, sealing off this part of the world. Jiang Chun, they can all leave, but you can't. Wei Xian said coldly. Today, this place will be your burial ground. This prince is fearless. Jiang Chun raised his eyebrows. He was afraid that he wouldn't be able to leave this place today. But so what? Everyone was born to die. It was only a matter of time. Even godly kings would find it hard to live forever. Now, in this life, although Jiang Chun had yet to become a god, he had yet to take back everything that had once belonged to him. But in this life, Jiang Chun did not live in vain. At the very least, he had enjoyed himself. Wasn't this a battle? Was there anything to be afraid of? Kill! Kill! At this moment, Jiang Chun let out a long howl. The heavens were crowned, and holy light protected his body. His left hand held the broken chasing heaven, and his right hand formed a fist seal. He was like a burning god of war as he charged out and instantly collided with the thousands of people. This was a chaotic battle. Wei Xian and the rest did not make a move because they believed that these 1,000 people were enough to kill Jiang Chun. However, even after half an incense stick of time, Jiang Chun still did not die. In the chaotic battle of the 1,000 people, Jiang Chun charged in and out. The chasing heaven in his hand had long since shattered. His chest was caved in, his shoulder blade was broken, and even his abdomen was pierced through. However, his physical body was extremely powerful, and his essence, energy, and spirit were like blood clouds lingering around his body. He was not afraid of the injuries on his body. His fists opened and closed, like an indestructible god of war. In half an incense stick of time, Jiang Chun had killed more than 300 geniuses, and there was no lack of low-level deity realm powerhouses among them. Furthermore, as time passed, although the injuries on Jiang Chun's body became more and more serious, his combat strength continued to soar. He's using battle to nurture battle? At this moment, Wei Xian and the rest realized that something was wrong with Jiang Chun. His injuries were getting worse, but his aura was getting stronger. From the beginning of this battle until now, Jiang Chun's cultivation had actually risen to the upper level of the Holy King stage. This was a secret technique, using battle to nurture battle. Through continuous battles, he could quickly increase his cultivation. And so what? He'll die sooner or later. He's already an arrow at the end of its flight. At the peak of the 18th stage, a few peerless geniuses had looks of contempt. He still didn't make a move. It was because they could see that Jiang Chun was very tired. His body was on the verge of collapse, and his essence, energy, and spirit were constantly dissipating. Even his life force was slowly weakening. In this state, even if his cultivation continued to increase, so what? He could exhaust Jiang Chen to death. If I had an army of 3,000, I would annihilate all of you. Jiang Chen sighed in his heart. His injuries were getting worse, and even his soul was injured. However, Jiang Chen had no choice. At this moment, other than continuing to fight, he had no other choice. Jiang Chen, I have to admit that you are very strong. It's a pity that you are alone now, and your cultivation is so low. It's impossible for you to have any hope of surviving. Wei Xian chuckled. Give up and accept your fate in peace. Fate? Do you believe in this thing? Jiang Chen shouted as he pushed his palms forward, sending over 100 geniuses flying. But at the same time, Jiang Chen's back, abdomen, and even the top of his head received over 100 attacks. At this moment, Jiang Chen's body began to tremble. He staggered and his frontal bone cracked. He was almost shaken to death. It's impossible to use forbidden techniques inside the blood path. Wei Xian chuckled. In that case, you have no chance of turning the tables. That's right. Jiang Chen sighed. If it was outside, Jiang Chen could use forbidden techniques. Even if he had to suffer the pain of the backlash, he would still be able to clean up these people in front of him. However, inside the blood path, there were special rules and laws. Forbidden techniques could not be used at all. Chi. After half an incense stick of time, Jiang Chen's condition became more and more abnormal. His legs were cut off and his left hand was pierced through by a sharp sword. With a loud bang, his entire left arm shattered. At this moment, Jiang Chen dragged his crippled body and stood in the air. Only his right hand was fighting. His blood had run out, and the essence, energy, and spirit in his body had long dried up. His life force was weak to the extreme, as if he had already stepped into the gates of hell. Jiang Chen sighed in his heart. Was this fate? Was he really going to die here today? This guy is too ferocious. He fought against us alone, and in the end, he killed more than 600 people. He's not dead yet. In the surroundings, the people who were besieging Jiang Chen were also shocked and terrified. At this point in the battle, there were originally more than 1,000 people, but now there were only 300 people left, and Jiang Chen alone had killed more than 600 people. One had to know that these people were all geniuses. Among them, there were a few geniuses at the middle level of the god realm who were also killed by Jiang Chen. They could not imagine how a cultivator at the upper level of the Holy King stage could do this. If such a person did not die today and rose up in the future, wouldn't he have the final say in this world? It's not appropriate for you to bully him like this, right? Suddenly, a beautiful snow-white figure appeared not far away. Chapter 510. As soon as he finished speaking, a ray of sword radiance shot out like a ray of mystic light, killing the dozens of geniuses around Jiang Chen. At this moment, Jiang Chen raised his head and wiped the blood from his eyes. He saw a lady holding a long sword walking towards him. Tian Shui, Jiang Chen said softly. He did not expect Tian Shui to enter the path of blood. From the looks of it, she was here to save him? My patriarch said that if you die, she will be very sad. Tian Shui said softly and looked at Jiang Chen strangely. Upon hearing this, Jiang Chen was also taken aback. Then he came back to his senses. Wasn't Tian Shui's ancestor the Empress? What can you do by yourself? Jiang Chen sighed. You should leave. Otherwise, you will die here too. You are the only one who is allowed to occupy 1,000 people, but I am not allowed to laugh at my peers? Tian Shui raised her eyebrows. Suddenly, her eyes turned red. At the next moment, Tian Shui's Dao Soul appeared. It was the Azura with 3 heads and 6 arms. Tian Shui roared. Her hair danced in the wind. 6 hands held swords and 3 hands bit sabers. She seemed to have gone berserk as she charged into the crowd. Poof! Poof! At this moment, everyone saw a blood-red figure dancing in the crowd. Following a series of dull thuds, blood splattered like rain. A violent and bloodthirsty aura shot up into the sky. The sky above her head was dyed red. Wherever Tian Shui passed, blood would splatter under her feet. It was as if hell had descended. The Azura Dao Soul has already advanced to such a stage? Jiang Chen exclaimed. Some Dao Souls in the world could continuously advance. Among them, the Azura Dao Soul was one of them. When the Azura Dao Soul advanced to the peak, it would become the 10 Evils headmaster. Now, Tian Shui's Dao Soul was only one step away from the 10 Evils headmaster. However, Jiang Chen was a little worried. The Azura Dao Soul was too bloodthirsty. Since ancient times, anyone who possessed the Azura Dao Soul would end up in a miserable state. Basically, their souls would be stolen by the Azura Dao Soul and turned into emotionless killing tools. Interesting Azura Dao Soul. Wei Xian narrowed his eyes and said to a peerless genius beside him, "Why don't you go and meet her?" "That's exactly what I was thinking," the young man said softly, his eyes flashing with a burning desire to fight. The next moment, he took a step forward, and flames burst out from his body. Then his Taoist soul appeared. Qi Lian, Dao Soul Red Refinement. In the surroundings, there were people crying out in alarm. Even Wei Xian's followers were crying out in alarm. This was because Crimson Refined Dao Souls were extremely rare. It was said that this Dao Soul was born from the same root as the Azura Dao Soul, but they were natural enemies. If these two Dao Souls were to encounter each other in any era, a battle of life and death would definitely break out. It was like a kind of fate. I thought that in this era, Qi Lian, was invincible. I never thought that I would have an old enemy like you. The young man raised his eyebrows. Flames surged all over his body, and his eyes were red. He held a pink longsword in his hand and pointed it at Tian Shui. "I am Li Yunzhong." "Huh?" Tian Shui snorted. Her eyes were red as if she had lost consciousness. Her face was full of killing intent, especially when she sensed the Crimson Refined Dao Soul. The killing intent on her body became even more violent. The Crimson Refined Dao Soul, full name Crimson Refined Demon Dao Soul, was an old enemy of Azura. Since ancient times, Crimson Refined Demon and Azura have always been competing to see who is superior. Now, in this era, it's time to see who is superior. Li Yunzhong said coldly. Azura is superior. Crimson Refined Demon is inferior. Tian Shui let out a long cry. Her consciousness was blurred, but she did not forget that Crimson Refined Demon and Azura were old enemies. At this moment, Tian Shui charged out. Her 3 heads and 6 arms danced, and sword light burst out. Then the two of them collided in the air. Blood-red radiance exploded from the two of them. The sword light shook the void, and it was even more resplendent, like a misty rain. "Jiang Chen, have you played enough?" At this moment, Wei Xian said softly. He waved his hand at the group of followers below and said, "End him. The ancestor of my Heavenly Flow clan is still waiting for him to return." "Sai, you just love to cause trouble." But at this moment, 2 youths stepped on the air and came over. These 2 people were Tian Lu Xingyue and Tian Lu Xingchen. "You promised my ancestor that if you can get out alive, you will bestow your inheritance to my Heavenly Flow clan." Tian Lu Xingyue said, "Yes." Jiang Chen nodded. He was now incomparably weak and did not even have the strength to speak. "Take good care of him," Tian Lu Xingyue said to Tian Lu Xingchen. Then, she focused her gaze and stood in front of Jiang Chen. She said to Wei Xian in the distance, "You guys, if you don't do it personally, I'm afraid his life will be in danger today." "Heavenly Flow clan?" Wei Xian frowned and said, "I'm the holy son of the divine light cult." I know. Tian Lu Xingyue smiled. She tilted her head and asked, "So what? Does the Heavenly Flow clan want to be enemies with my divine light cult?" Wei Xian said in a deep voice, "Enemies?" Tian Lu Xingyue seemed to be very surprised. She glanced at Tian Lu Xingchen and asked, "Is the divine light cult very strong? Are they worthy of being enemies with my Heavenly Flow clan?" "No." Tian Lu Xingxian was very direct, and a trace of contempt flashed in his eyes. The Heavenly Flow clan was once the overlord of the Nether Continent. How deep was the Heavenly Flow clan's foundation? How could the Divine Light cult contend against them? You're really arrogant, Wei Xian said coldly. He sneered and said, then, all of you can stay here today. You don't have the ability. Tian Lu Xingyue said mockingly, if you don't believe me, why don't you fight with me? There's no need for me to do it myself. Wei Xian said coldly. With a wave of his hand, a peerless genius at the upper level of the divine realm rushed out. This person was the Holy Son of the Black Cloud Mountain. Did you know that from the moment I was born, the Heavenly Flow clan had already decided to regain control of the Nether Continent? Tian Lu Xingyue said softly and asked, do you know what this means? What? Wei Xian frowned, not understanding what Tian Lu Xingyue meant. The Holy Son of the Black Cloud Mountain was also puzzled. He stared at Tian Lu Xingyue and said, what do you want to say? Because I can regain control of the Nether Continent by myself. Tian Lu Xingyue raised his eyebrows and said with a proud expression, fine, today I'll let you see how strong the future patriarch of the Heavenly Flow clan is. Boom! As soon as he finished speaking, Tian Lu Xingyue punched out. This punch was like a mountain, collapsing the void, and even the surrounding barrier was shattered. Under this punch, there was a great force of the heavens descending, and streams of light danced along with the fist light. Like a myriad of stars surrounding the moon, under this punch, the expression of the Holy Son of the Black Cloud Mountain changed drastically. Chapter 5:11. The power of a single punch shocked everyone. Even the expression of the Black Cloud Mountain's Holy Son changed again and again. He started to retreat, but it was already too late. The punch flew through the air and landed on the body of the Black Cloud Mountain's Holy Son, shattering his body on the spot. The power of the fist didn't decrease as it exploded and destroyed the soul of the Black Cloud Mountain's Holy Son. What? He killed the Black Cloud Mountain's Holy Son with a single punch. At this moment, cries of surprise filled the sky. No one could believe that Tian Lu Xingyue was actually so strong. One punch was enough to kill a peerless heaven's favorite. No matter where it was, this battle strength was enough to intimidate an area. This kid is powerful, Jiang Chen thought to himself, but his heart was still tense. Because there were too many people in Wei Xian's alliance, and there were thousands of followers. Moreover, this Black Cloud Mountain's Holy Son wasn't the strongest among these people. Interesting. Wei Xian raised his brows and stared at Tian Lu Xingyue. Why don't you follow me? Follow you? Tian Lu Xingyue was stunned, then laughed wildly. You? Are you worthy? Since you're unwilling, then die. Wei Xian's eyes suddenly focused, and his voice was ice-cold. Then he waved his hand, and another peerless genius beside him made a move. This person didn't say much, and when he arrived near Tian Lu Xingyue, he said softly, Qin Mo of the Qin family? Many people were moved, and some even cried out in surprise. It was all because the name Qin Mo was too loud and clear. He was the young master of the Qin family, and also the strongest person in this generation of the Qin family. It was said that he had learned about 70 to 80% of the Qin family's barriers and formations. Now, in terms of formations and barriers, if Qin Mo said he was second, it would be very difficult for anyone to say they were first. Tian Lu Xingyue had also heard of Qin Mo's name. At this moment, her expression slightly focused, and she inwardly felt that it was troublesome. At this moment, Qin Mo didn't say much. With a wave of his hand, lines of formation runes appeared. Then, several huge attack matrices were formed, and barriers appeared, trapping the Tian Lu Xingyue in them. In the next moment, the energy in the array went berserk. Rays of light burst forth like clouds, drowning the heavenly meteor moon. At the same time, Thunderbolts fell from the sky and bombarded Tian Lu Xingyu's body. Tian Lu Xingyu, no matter how strong you are, you will still die in this formation. Wei Xian laughed wildly as a cold light flashed in his eyes. He looked at Jiang Chun and said coldly, "Next, it's your turn. Wei Xian, aren't you just relying on your numbers?" "Ah, the Radiant God cult calls itself a righteous sect. But looking at what you're doing now, what's the difference between you and the demons? You think you can bully us just because you outnumber us? Huh, then shall we give it a try?" At this moment, 3 youths joined forces and came over from afar. As soon as they appeared, the entire area was filled with demonic energy. It was as if the sky had turned dark, and even the sun in the sky had been dyed with a layer of ink. Jiang Haoran, Chun Lu Dao, Lu Songyang, everyone was moved. They never thought that these 3 devils would actually come at such a time. Moreover, there was a large group of followers behind them. Among these followers, some were demonic cultivators, while others were demonic cultivators. However, most of them followed Jiang Haoran's group because of their personalities. They liked to be free and easy, so they followed Jiang Haoran's group. "He's the young master of my Jiang family," Jiang Haoran said softly as he pointed at Jiang Chun. "Logically speaking, I should call him young master. If he dies in front of me, then this matter, I really can't say for sure," Jiang Haoran said in a deep voice. Lu Songyang and Qin Ludao nodded with a smile, especially Qin Ludao. He even looked at Jiang Chun with a playful expression and said, "Didn't you say that you wanted us to join the Chuanzuan sect? But if you die, what's the point of us joining the Chuanzuan sect?" "You all." Jiang Chun opened his mouth. He was indeed moved. He had a good relationship with Jiang Haoran, but his relationship with Chun Ludao and Lu Songyang was only SOSO. But who would have thought that at the moment of his life and death, these people would actually come? "The 3 of you. Must you go against me?" Wei Xian's expression was ugly, and his face was filled with anger. In this bloody path, Wei Xian's alliance could be considered very powerful. Apart from those geniuses at the forefront, Wei Xian could be considered very strong here. However, Wei Xian also had opponents here, just like the 3 devils in front of him. Their rallying power was too strong, and the 3 of them were also extremely terrifying. Now, the arrival of these 3 people, along with their many followers, made Wei Xian feel a trace of pressure. "What do you mean by going against you?" Lu Songyang raised his eyebrows. "We're just here to bring him back. Of course, if you don't let us take him away, then I'm afraid we'll have to fight this battle." Chun Lu Dao said mockingly. "What? Do you dare?" "Why wouldn't I dare?" Wei Xian shouted angrily. With a wave of his hand, he said to the remaining followers, "Kill them. Hey, brats, kill them for me." Chun Lu Dao also waved his hand, and the group of followers behind him charged forward like crazy demons. Immediately after, Jiang Haoran, Qin Ludao, and Lu Songyang attacked Wei Xian. However, Wei Xian still had several peerless geniuses by his side. They made their move and blocked Jiang Haoran and the other 2. At the same time, Wei Xian finally made his move. He charged towards Jiang Chun, a holy light erupting from his body, and a sword of light appeared in his hand. Before he could even get close, a sword beam cut through the void and shot towards Jiang Chen's face. Are you looking down on me?" Tian Lu Xing frowned and punched out, shattering the sword beam. Then, Tian Lu Xing rushed out, and the light of the moon appeared on his body. His hands formed a fist seal, and when he pushed it out, it was as if endless stars had exploded. "Who do you think you are?" Wei Xian said disdainfully. "Tian Lu Xingyu is quite a character. But what are you? You're just an ant." "Ant?" Tian Lu Xing was stunned for a moment. Was he really that weak? Or could it be that this fellow was looking down on the number 2 genius of my Heavenly Flow clan? Thinking of this, Tian Lu Xing was also furious. Both of his hands continuously pushed out horizontally. Starlight filled the air, and the bright moon hung high in the sky. Then, A beam of starlight pierced through the void and directly blasted Wei Xian away. Then, Tian Lu Xingchen took a step forward. His figure was like a meteor catching up with the moon, and in an instant, he landed in front of Wei Xian. In the next moment, Tian Lu Xingchen's foot landed on Wei Xian's face. He spat out a mouthful of saliva and spat out, "So weak. Impossible." Wei Xian's eyes narrowed. He couldn't believe that Tian Lu Xingchen was so strong. Chapter 512. Even Jiang Chun was dumbfounded. He had fought with Tian Lu Xingchen before, but this guy wasn't so powerful. However, after giving a second thought, Jiang Chun felt relieved. Back then, Tian Lu Xingchen's cultivation wasn't so high. Moreover, the world only knew about Tian Lu Xingyu, not Tian Lu Xingchen. Therefore, Tian Lu Xingchen's light was suppressed. As a result, everyone thought that Tian Lu Xingchen's battle prowess wasn't strong. But now, it seemed that this guy's battle prowess wasn't weak. Instead, it was terrifyingly strong. You are only the second holy son of the radiant god cult. If Wei Guang didn't die, who do you think you are? Tian Lu Xingchen said disdainfully. If Wei Guang was still here, you would always be the second holy son. My strength is not weaker than Wei Guang's. Wei Xian roared, feeling very unconvinced. But in reality, many people knew that although Wei Xian was shrewd, his strength was indeed inferior to Wei Guang's. Back then, if Wei Guang hadn't been swept into the world of Zhang Haoran and the others and been killed by Zhang Haoran and the other two devils, how could Wei Xian sit on the position of the first holy son of the radiant god cult? Now, even though there were so many people following Wei Xian, it was actually not because of Wei Xian's identity. And now, when those followers saw that Wei Xian had been defeated and suppressed, many of them left on the spot. After all, their boss had been defeated, so there was no point in continuing to follow him. You think you can unify the blood path? You are too naive, Tian Lu Xingchen said disdainfully. The one who can truly unify the blood path is not you, but those peerless geniuses at the front. I am not weaker than them. Wei Xian roared, his eyes red. I was just careless before. If you give me another chance, I will definitely defeat you. Oh, it seems that you are not convinced? Tian Lu Xingchen raised his eyebrows, then suddenly laughed and said, naive. Bang! As soon as he finished speaking, Tian Lu Xingchen struck out with his palm, directly destroying Wei Xian's soul. Even his body was shattered into powder. At this point, Wei Xian's alliance was completely disbanded. At the same time, a raging flame exploded in the sky, and the youth who was fighting with Tian Shui fell down. His body was separated from his head, and his entire body was dripping with blood. His life force had already disappeared. Crimson Lotus and Azura's old enemy battle finally came to an end, and the winner was Tian Shui, Azura. Not long after, Tian Lu Xingyu rushed out of the array formation. Her body was surrounded by starlight, and a long sword that looked like it was made of stars pierced through the void and pierced through Qin Mo's forehead. At this point, Qin Mo had died. A few peerless geniuses had fallen one after another, and most of their followers had left. The remaining people naturally had no desire to continue fighting. In just a few breaths of time, the people of the Wei Xian alliance all left. It's finally over. Jiang Chun let out a long sigh, his heart still palpitating. If it weren't for the fact that so many people had come to support him, he would have definitely died here. Puff! However, it was at this moment that Jiang Chun's body began to tremble. 3 bloody holes suddenly appeared on his back, between his eyebrows, and in his dantian. Upon closer inspection, 3 daggers suddenly pierced Jiang Chun's body. If it weren't for Jiang Chun's strong physical body and strong soul, these 3 daggers would have been enough to take Jiang Chun's life. You think you can survive? At this moment, Mu Xingyan appeared in front of Jiang Chun with a smile and said mockingly, "You are too naive." Mu Xingyan. Jiang Chun was furious. He really didn't expect that Mu Xingyan would actually sneak attack him again. The enmity between us should be settled today. Mu Xingyan smiled and said, I have one. Huh. At this moment, Jiang Qin's body began to tremble. With a light shout, a terrifying force suddenly erupted from his body. Even his life force was constantly recovering. An immortal bird appeared behind Jiang Qin, and as it let out a long cry, its inextinguishable flames started burning. I'm not dead yet. How can you win? Jiang Qin roared and gathered the last bit of strength in his body. A trace of determination appeared in his eyes. He had burned the undying bird's Tao soul. Burning the Tao soul was equivalent to destroying it. However, when the Tao soul was burned, the power of the Tao soul would be infinitely magnified. The strongest power of the undying bird's Tao soul was immortality. At this moment, after Jiang Qin burned his Tao soul, the power of the undying bird filled his body. His injuries were rapidly healing. In just 3 breaths' time, Jiang Qin had recovered to his original state. A layer of divine light shone on his skin like an undying fire. In his eyes, there seemed to be an undying bird dancing. Flames accompanied by the brilliance of the sun and moon spurted out from his pupils. Do you want to end it? Then today, I will end it with you. Jiang Qin roared and recovered to his peak state. When he struck out his palm, it directly hit Mu Xingyun's head. However, in the next moment, Mu Xingyun's body suddenly turned into a cloud of smoke. It was his Tao soul, the shadow. Are you angry? You burned your Tao soul? What's the use of that? Mu Xingyun's voice came from the void and said, Your cultivation is much weaker than mine. You are no match for me. This time, if you have the guts, don't run away. Jiang Qin roared angrily. There were several times when Jiang Qin almost killed Mu Xingyun. However, this guy was too careful and cunning. He escaped every time. This time, Jiang Qin really did not want to let him go. However, Jiang Qin knew clearly that if Mu Xingyun, who had the Shadow Tao Soul, insisted on leaving, no one could stop him. If I don't leave, I will be besieged by all of you. Mu Xingyun said, Do you think I am stupid? If you don't leave, I will fight you one-on-one. Jiang Qin raised his eyebrows and said, Do you dare? When Jiang Haoran and the others heard this, they frowned. However, they knew Jiang Qin's temper. Immediately, Jiang Haoran and the others retreated and left Jiang Qin alone. I swear in the name of Tianqin that no one will interfere in the fight with you today. Jiang Qin immediately made a blood oath. He wanted to force Mu Xingyun to fight. Mu Xingyun's resentment towards Jiang Qin had been accumulated for a long time. When he saw Jiang Qin make a blood oath, he walked out of the void and made a blood oath. He would not retreat until he died in the fight today. You're only an upper-level Saint King, and I've already stepped into the lower level of the divine realm. How can you fight me? Mu Xingyun said disdainfully. Don't tell me you think you can fight me with a higher level? I have never thought of that, Jiang Qin said truthfully. Jiang Qin knew very well that Mu Xingyun was different from other geniuses. In front of Mu Xingyun, a slight difference in cultivation was a slight difference. However, this slight difference was like a chasm that was difficult to cross. However, Jiang Qin was determined to fight today. Not to mention that you are just an upper holy king. Even if you enter the great saint realm, you will not be able to fight with me, Mu Xingyun said disdainfully. If I enter the great saint realm, that may not be the case. Jiang Qin raised his eyebrows and said, If I become a great saint, I will definitely destroy you. It is useless to say more, Mu Xingyun said softly. When he finished speaking, his figure disappeared. Chapter 513. Then, numerous shadows appeared in the air. Each of them was lifelike, just like the real Mu Xingyun. At the same time, numerous daggers burst out from the void, like venomous snakes, heading straight for Jiang Qin. Jiang Qin was fearless. His entire body emitted raging flames. His fists danced, and rays of fist radiance burst out. Boom! Boom! Explosions rang out continuously. The fist radiance and the daggers collided, turning into rays of light and exploding. The ripples of the aftermath spread out, shaking the void until it was distorted. Whoosh! Suddenly, a golden dagger pierced through the air. Its speed was extremely fast, like a flash of lightning. Before Jiang Chun could react, the golden dagger pierced through his glabella. Fortunately, Jiang Chen's physical body was extremely strong. Although his glabella split open, it did not hurt his divine soul. However, before Jiang Chun could react, 18 daggers fell in succession and pierced through Jiang Chen's limbs. At this moment, Jiang Chen's body trembled. His entire body was dripping with blood, and even his aura had weakened significantly. "You are not my match after all," Mu Xingyan hid in the dark and said mockingly. "You are destined to lose this battle." "Victory and defeat are common," Jiang Chun said softly. "But before the outcome is decided, it is best not to jump to conclusions." The outcome of this battle between us is already clear," Mu Xingyan said. "With such a huge gap in cultivation, you are no match for me at all." Jiang Chen did not speak. The inextinguishable flame on his body burned, and his injuries healed instantly. At the same time, he used his alternate incarnation. Numerous clones appeared and rushed toward the shadows around him. With a roar, the clones exploded and the shadows collapsed. After a dozen breaths, only Jiang Chun was left in this area. However, he knew that Mu Xingyan was still hiding in the dark. Buzz! With a loud buzz, Jiang Chen's figure gradually dimmed. He was proficient in all professions. Naturally, he knew the Dark Master's concealment technique like the back of his hand. Where is he? These two people's concealment techniques are so profound. Everyone in the surroundings exclaimed in surprise and fear. Some people thought that if they were to fight with Jiang Chun and Mu Xingyan, they would most likely be ambushed and killed. How are we supposed to fight now? Both of them are hiding in the dark. Who can find the other? It will be a protracted battle. As the crowd was guessing, a series of explosions took place in the sky. Clearly, the two of them had discovered each other, and a great battle had broken out in the void. After half an incense stick's time, a crack appeared in the void. Jiang Chen's body was covered in blood as he was sent flying out. The inextinguishable flames on his body had dimmed quite a bit, and there was a bone-deep crack between his eyebrows. His dantian was pierced, his left hand was broken, and there was a black dagger stuck in his right shoulder blade. In the end, you are not my opponent. At this moment, Mu Xingyan rushed out of the void with a golden dagger in his hand. He went straight for Jiang Chen's glabella. This attack was like the wind and lightning, extremely fast. This attack was as dark as night, as if it could devour everything. "Jiang Chen? Boss!" At this moment, exclamations came from all around, and they wiped away Jiang Chen's cold sweat. However, there was no trace of fear in Jiang Chen's eyes. He looked at the golden dagger that was close at hand, and the corners of his mouth suddenly curled up slightly, revealing a smile. This strange smile stunned Mu Xingyan. However, the dagger in his hand did not stop. Like a bolt of golden lightning, the dagger pierced Jiang Chen's glabella under Jiang Chen's strange smile. This time, Jiang Chen's glabella exploded, and his frontal bone shattered. One could even see his soul. "Have you had enough fun?" At this moment, Jiang Chen whispered. His soul was surrounded by an inextinguishable fire, and he did not receive any damage. At the same time, a terrifying aura erupted from Jiang Chen's body. In the sky, there were auspicious signs descending, and there were also tribulation clouds descending. He broke through? Using battle to nurture battle? Exclamation sounded. No one expected that Jiang Chun would take such a big risk. He was using battle to nurture battle, and he did not hesitate to risk the consequences of death to fight with Mu Xingyan until now. In the last attack, Jiang Chen even braved the danger of his soul being destroyed to take it head-on. It was also this attack that allowed Jiang Chun to break through to the great sage. Using battle to nurture battle, using battle to stop battle, Jiang Chen shouted softly, and his realm stepped into the lower level of the great sage in an instant. At this moment, Jiang Chun waved his hand and punched out, sending Mu Xingyun, who was close at hand, flying. Without waiting for Mu Xingyun to react, Jiang Chen's figure was like a ghost, leaving behind afterimages in the air. In an instant, Jiang Chen appeared in front of Mu Xingyun. The difference in cultivation is too great. I can't compete with you, Jiang Chen said softly. But now I am a great sage. So what if you are a great sage? I am in the lower level of the immortal state. Mu Xingyun reacted quickly and retreated. At the same time, a dagger in his hand stabbed toward Jiang Chun like a venomous snake. Jiang Chun raised his eyebrows and chuckled. In the blink of an eye, he shattered the dagger with his physical strength. Then Jiang Chun dashed forward and exerted the shrinking space to an inch to the utmost. He stood in front of Mu Xingyun, clenched his fists, and the power of the 6 paths exploded. It's time to end this, Jiang Chun said softly, and the 6 paths of reincarnation fist exploded. Like 6 suns of different colors, they crashed down and drowned Mu Xingyun. 6 paths of reincarnation fist? Is this the real 6 paths of reincarnation fist? Exclamations were heard all around, and some people's eyes were shining with greed. This was an unparalleled martial art technique. It was said that it could suppress the 6 paths and shatter reincarnation. That's it? But at this moment, Mu Xingyun's voice came from the fist radiance. Then, he broke free from the fist radiance with blood all over his body. Half of his body had already exploded, and his internal organs had been ground into ashes. Even his divine soul was severely injured. The light of his divine soul was dim and looked like it was about to be extinguished. Jiang Chun squinted his eyes, surprised. One should know that the 6 paths of reincarnation fist was the most powerful martial art technique that Jiang Chun could use. Logically speaking, even those in the middle or upper level of the divine state would die if they took the 6 paths of reincarnation fist head-on. But now, although Mu Xingyun was severely injured, he survived. And from the looks of it, his life was not in danger. Look at me. I'm not suitable to fight fair and square with others, Mu Xingyun said softly and looked at Jiang Chen mockingly. Then his expression turned serious and he said, I'm Mu Xingyun. Admit that you're very powerful. I've always been powerful. Jiang Chen was not modest, and there was no need for him to be modest. Everyone knew of his strength. If not for the fact that his cultivation was slightly lower, no one would have the right to speak on this bloody path. It's a pity that you still can't kill me today, Mu Xingyun said softly and looked up at the sky. He sighed and said, So what if I made a blood oath? I'd rather suffer the pain of the blood oath than die here. Chapter 514. You still want to run? Jiang Chen reacted quickly and hurriedly made a move. However, Mu Xingyun had already made up his mind to leave. How could Jiang Chen stop him? At this moment, Mu Xingyun split into several shadows and disappeared into the void. His real body disappeared and only left behind a sentence. Next time, I won't fight you head-on. You be careful. Damn it. Jiang Chun was furious and his heart was filled with grievances. He never expected that Mu Xingyun would actually ignore the backlash of the blood oath and escape just like that. The backlash of the blood oath isn't something that can be resisted so easily, Jiang Haoran said. He can withstand it, Jiang Chen said. Although Jiang Chun and Mu Xingyun were mortal enemies, Jiang Chun had to admit that Mu Xingyun was strong. If he couldn't even withstand the backlash of the blood oath, then Mu Xingyun was too weak. After this battle, our opponents will only be the group of geniuses at the front. Chun Ludao smiled and said, Those people are our real opponents. Kill them with a sword. Lu Songyang raised his eyebrows. What real geniuses? Only those who have the last laugh can be considered geniuses. Just kill them. Tian Shui kept her Azura Dao soul, but the murderous aura on her body was still very strong. Moreover, after the battle just now, Tian Shui's Dao soul seemed to be about to advance again. This also caused Tian Shui's murderous aura to become even more terrifying. It was to the point that no one was willing to go near her. Let's walk out of the 10th small world first, Jiang Chun said. During this period of time, everyone should cultivate separately. The Bloody Path was formed by many small worlds. The first part of the Bloody Path was the 10 small worlds. The middle part of the path was the so-called small worlds. The last part of the path was a mysterious ancient path. It was suspected to be the path of reincarnation. Now, the group of people at the front had already walked out of the 10th small world and stepped into the small worlds. And those people were also the strongest group of people who had entered the Bloody Path. Next up, Jiang Chun and the others began cultivating as they slowly made their way towards the 10th minor world. Ever since the battle with Wei Xin Alliance, no one dared to provoke Jiang Chen's group. Therefore, the journey was quite peaceful, and nothing major happened. A month later, in front of the trial ground of the 10th small world. "Is everyone here?" Jiang Chen asked softly as he looked at the people around him. There were more than 3,000 people. Most of them were followers. Along the way, the people around Jiang Chun had also gathered. Now, Wakako, Hualiani, Jiang Chun, and the others were all following behind Jiang Chun. Jiang Haoran, Chen Lu Dao, and Lu Songyang were the first to enter the pocket dimension. Because they were from the Devil Dao, they didn't like to be with ordinary people. As for Tian Shui, she was also traveling alone. Her killing intent was too violent, and she didn't want to affect others. "Boss, are there any living creatures in the mini-universe?" Zhang Lu asked. "Yes." Jiang Chen nodded and said, "A long time ago, the mini-universe was the same as the godless continent. It was also a complete world. However, it encountered a great disaster, and this world was broken. Therefore, it became a mini-universe in the Bloody Path." "Then are the living creatures in the mini-universe strong?" Wakako asked. "Strong," Jiang Chen said in a deep voice. "You must know that more than half of the people who entered the Bloody Path died in the mini-universe. The natives of the mini-universe are hostile to us outsiders. They kill whoever they see," Jiang Chen explained. "After entering the mini-universe, be careful and keep a low profile." However, Jiang Chen didn't believe these words. What kind of people were the people around him? Which one of them didn't cause trouble? Not to mention the others. Just these 3 great virtues were enough to poke the sky. Jiang Chen couldn't imagine what would happen to them after they entered the small Kiliacosm. It was possible that they would cause big trouble. "Boss, you're already an upper position great sage now. You're only 1 step away from the deity realm. With your current combat strength, I'm afraid there aren't many people in the same generation who are your match, right?" Xiao Qingyi said. As soon as these words came out, Jiang Chen's face immediately darkened. During these 15 days, Jiang Chun had been traveling as fast as he could and practicing at the same time. His cultivation base had also reached upper position Great Sage. However, this cultivation base was really too weak. Wakako, Zhanglu, Hualiani, and the rest had all reached upper position deity realm. Even Xiao Qingyi had entered deity realm not long ago and now reached middle position deity realm. Now among Jiang Chen's group, his cultivation base was the lowest. "Boss, the level of cultivation base isn't important. Combat strength is the way to go," Jiang Lu said honestly, as if comforting Jiang Chen. Jiang Chen smiled bitterly. Cultivation base was not important, but without cultivation base, it was absolutely impossible. Moreover, after entering the mini-universe, he would have to collide with those peerless geniuses. Even if there was only a slight difference in cultivation base between him and those people, it was difficult to cross. Jiang Chen had already thought about it. After entering the mini-universe, he would keep a low profile and quietly move forward, seizing the time to improve his cultivation base. Or he could stay in this 10th mini-universe for a while and wait until he broke through to the deity realm before entering the mini-universe. However, this idea was quickly rejected by Jiang Chen. One had to know that not everyone could reach the end of the Bloody Path. There was a limit to the number of people. There were so many people entering the Bloody Path, and Jiang Chen had wasted too much time in the early stages. Now, There were at least 50,000 people who had stepped into the mini-universe, if not 100,000. Therefore, Jiang Chun must seize the time to keep up with the large group. Otherwise, the quota would be full before he reached the end of the bloody path. Let's go. After a few breaths, Jiang Chun shouted softly. With a wave of his hand, everyone stepped on an altar. As if waking up from a dream, when the light in front of him disappeared, Jiang Chun found that he had entered the mini-universe. However, what made Jiang Chun puzzled and shocked was that there was no one around him. What's going on? Jiang Chun was shocked. After entering the mini-universe from the 10th mini-universe, it was not a random transmission. Logically speaking, he, Zhang Lu, and the others should be together. But now there was no one around. Moreover, Jiang Chun could feel that there was a special heaven and earth momentum in the place where he was, as if to suppress everything. The land of great danger. Jiang Chun was shocked and said, "Someone secretly changed the transmission altar in the 10th mini-universe." However, Jiang Chun did not think much. He stood in place and did not dare to move for a while. Because this place was too strange. Perhaps the slightest carelessness would be beyond redemption. I don't know where Zhang Lu and the others were transmitted to. Were they all transmitted to the land of great danger like me? Jiang Chun thought. Someone wants to use the transmission altar to kill the people who come later? At the thought of this, Jiang Chun's expression could not help but become solemn. Because the coordinates on the transmission altar were fixed, unless it was a celestial realm powerhouse who took action, the transmission coordinates could be changed. Then, among the geniuses who entered the bloody path, there were already people who broke through to the celestial realm? Or the ones who changed the transmission altar coordinates were people from the 18 families. Chapter 515. The bloody path was a cage, imprisoning and sealing a group of great sinners. But now, Jiang Chun did not know who to believe. Who should believe Yumuba and the others, or the 18 families? And now, the teleportation altar had been secretly changed. This was a big deal. If the 18 families changed it, then what was their purpose? Was it to kill them? The trial takers? But if it was not the 18 families who changed it, then who could it be? Who was in Chang'an? Of course, these two forces had the power to secretly change the coordinates of the teleportation altar. But Jiang Chun suspected that the person who secretly changed the coordinates of the teleportation altar might also be a trial taker who entered the bloody path like him. If that was the case, then how terrifying was this person's attainments in array formations? Moreover, this person's cultivation had definitely reached the celestial realm. Half an hour later, Jiang Chun stood in place and did not move. It was because he was observing the direction of the mountains and rivers here, wanting to avoid the general trend of heaven and earth, and thus walk out of this place of great danger. But at this moment, Jiang Chun's expression changed greatly, because he saw that there was actually a corpse 1,000 miles away. Looking carefully, wasn't that the purple gold sex holy son? He died here? Jiang Chun whispered. Like me, he was teleported to this place of great danger and did not walk out alive. The purple gold sex holy son was extremely strong, and even he died here. Jiang Chun naturally had to be extra careful. At the same time, Jiang Chun was even more worried about Zhang Lu and the others. Buzz! At this moment, not far from Jiang Chun, the space vibrated, and a few breaths later, a youth was teleported here. When this person appeared, Jiang Chun's expression could not help but become strange. He looked at the other party with a smile that was not a smile and said, "What a coincidence." A coincidence. This youth was also stunned for a moment. He did not expect to meet Jiang Chun here, and this person was Nian Chang'e. "Do you have anything to say to me?" Jiang Chun said softly. When he opened and closed his eyes, the brilliance of the sun and moon flickered, because by then, Jiang Chun couldn't see through Nian Chang'e at all. Who was this guy? Would you believe me if I said I was the ancestor of the Chang and clan? Nian Chang'e smiled bitterly. You wouldn't believe me, would you? What if I believe you? Jiang Chen asked. This? If you believe it, then so be it. Nian Chang'e curled her lips. It's boring. You actually believed it just like that. After saying that, Nian Chang'e glanced around, and his face darkened slightly. He said, a place of great danger. Don't rush to go out. Let's talk about you first. Jiang Chen said, there are some things that you should tell me, right? As soon as these words came out, Nian Chang'e couldn't help but be stunned for a moment. She frowned slightly and seemed to be hesitating. Jiang Chen didn't urge him. He just stood there quietly. A dozen breaths later, Nian Chang'e let out a long sigh and said, I am indeed the ancestor of the Chang and clan, the Chang and of the world. Ever since I broke through the seal on the bloody path, I've become like this. Nian Chang'e explained one by one, and even revealed a shocking secret. It turned out that back then, Nian Chang'e was fighting with a group of strange creatures. In the end, he was ambushed by his own people. After being seriously injured, he was sealed in this bloody path. And the group of people who ambushed and sealed him was the people of the 18 clans on the bloody path. In that battle back then, Nian Chang'e was also muddle-headed. He didn't even know who his opponent was, what identity they had, what race they were from. He just received an order and then set off. But no one would have thought that that battle was actually a trap. Yu Muba, Zate Song, and the others also participated in that battle. The final result was similar to Nian Chang'e's. However, Yu Muba and Zate Song were tricked into the bloody path to recuperate. But who would have thought that they would be ambushed in the dark? One was suppressed in the immortal pit, and the other was suppressed in the dragon vein. Now among the three of them, because of some reason, Nian Chang'e's cultivation level fell, and his foundation was shattered. So he had to recuperate for countless years. In this life, he was finally healed and began to cultivate again. Zaitsong was also just born in this life. He was taken away by Nian Chang'e and now sent to the heavenly temple to recuperate. As for Yu Muba, it would be a long time before he could be born. At least, if the 18 clans on the bloody path were not destroyed, it would be difficult for Yu Muba to be born. That battle, there was actually another person. Nian Chang'e said softly, staring at Jiang Chen. His meaning was self-evident. Me? Jiang Chen was stunned, then shook his head, saying, I know my identity is not ordinary. Maybe I've reincarnated a few times, but I have no memory of my previous lives. That was your second life. Nian Chang'e sighed. That life could have changed everything. But unfortunately, there was a traitor among us. Do you know who the traitor is? Jiang Chen asked. Although Jiang Chen didn't know who he was in his second life, he really wanted to know what had happened in his first life. The master behind the 18 clans. Nian Chang'e said, I don't know where he is now. He might be in the ninth heaven divine world, or he might be in the godless continent, or he might have entered a forbidden area. Are you going to take revenge in this life? Jiang Chen asked. Revenge? Nian Chang'e suddenly smiled bitterly, saying, There's not much time left for us. After saying that, Nian Chang'e did not continue to speak. He just pointed to the sky above his head and said, You can't talk too much about the forbidden area. Sooner or later, you will understand and awaken. There will be a day. Jiang Chen nodded. Next, Jiang Chen and Nian Chang'e joined forces and began to walk out of the great ominous land. Both of them were people with extraordinary means and mastered many secret techniques. With the two of them working together, a mere great ominous land naturally could not trap them. A day later, the two of them walked out of the great ominous land. Looking around, there was a plain in front of them. It was barren, and there was not a single weed growing. Have you been here before? Nian Chang'e asked. I have been to the bloody path in my previous life, but I have never been here. Jiang Chen shook his head. It's very desolate, like a dead place. This is a very famous place in the bloody path. Nian Chang'e said, pointing to his feet, and said, Do you know why this plain is so desolate? Without waiting for Jiang Chen to ask, Nian Chang'e said, Under this plain, there is a divine king buried. What? Jiang Chen exclaimed. In this place, there was actually a divine king buried. One had to know, weren't the gods in the ninth heaven divine world? Especially the divine king. How noble, How could he not be buried in the small thousand world after death? What's impossible? Nien Changa said, in a long time ago, there was no boundary wall between the ninth heaven divine world and the godless continent. Mortals could go to the ninth heaven, and gods could also enter the mortal world. With that, Nien Changa glanced at Jiang Chun with a strange expression and said, "Don't you want to know which divine king is buried under this plain?" Looking at Nien Changa's strange expression, Jiang Chen's heart thumped, as if he had noticed something. Chapter 516. It can't be buried, Jiang Chen whispered, his heart throbbing. But Nien Changa didn't say it directly. Instead, she pointed to the sky, looked at the earth, and slowly said, "This small world was once like the godless continent, a complete big world. But in a certain era, there was a great disaster here. It was invaded by foreign creatures, and a great war broke out here." Nien Changa said, "It turned out that this small world was once called the Flowing Heaven World. Like the godless continent, it was a big world. But because of a great war, many gods participated in the war and fought fiercely with the foreign enemies for tens of thousands of years. This war caused heaven and earth to collapse. The laws and great Tao of the Flowing Heaven World collapsed. A big world was shattered and became the small world today. And in that war, tens of thousands of gods fell, and dozens of divine kings died in battle. That was a glorious era, but it was also an era full of blood and war. After a great war, the foreign creatures were repelled. The gods returned to the ninth heaven divine world, and also took away the corpses of many gods. But there was one person's body that was too heavy and could not be taken away. He inherited the great Tao of heaven and earth and controlled the will of heaven. Although he died, his will was still there. His body was left here. Even if he died, he wanted to protect this broken world. And that person's body was finally buried under this plane. This plane is called Burial Origin. Nien Changa said, "So?" Jiang Chen stared at Nien Changa and said, "The divine king buried under this plane is me. Your third life, divine king Tian Yuan." Nien Changa nodded and said, "What do you think now?" To be honest, after Jiang Chen heard this, his heart and mind went blank. What could he think? What did he need to think? In Jiang Chen's heart, everything was in the past. No matter how glorious it was in the past, it was in the past. Moreover, no matter how glorious it was, in the end, it still died and turned into a corpse, sleeping underground forever. That kind of glory was not what Jiang Chen wanted. "In this life, you should return," Nien Changa said. She stared at Jiang Chen, an unclear look flashing in her eyes. It was like sadness, like nostalgia, and more like fighting spirit burning in Nien Changa's eyes. "When will you break through to the divine realm?" Nien Changa asked. "Soon. It should be within this period of time," Jiang Chen said. "If it weren't for so many troubles, I would have already stepped into the divine realm." "Then when you break through to the divine realm, come here and take your own things," Nien Changa said. Hearing this, Jiang Chen was stunned. Take away his belongings? What was in this place that belonged to him? Except for the corpse of his third life. "Don't tell me. You want me to come and take away the body of the third reincarnation?" Jiang Chen frowned. "He's already dead. What's the point?" "That's yours." Nien Changa narrowed his eyes. "Listen to me. When you break through to the divine realm, come here. At that time, you will know many secrets. Maybe?" Jiang Chen nodded. Then the two left, ready to find Jiang Lu and the others first. Half a day later, the two came to a small town. This town was built by the natives of this small world. It was quite lively here, but it also gave people a kind of vicissitude and cold aura. There were not many people in the whole town, just over 10,000. Moreover, the people here basically did not know how to cultivate. Occasionally, they would meet a cultivator, but his cultivation was very low. This world is broken. Most of the cultivation methods and martial skills have been lost. In this world now, there are too few people who know how to cultivate. Nien Changa sighed and said, "Once upon a time, How glorious was the flowing heaven realm! Its foundation was so deep that it was not inferior to the godless continent. Time has changed, and the glory is no longer there, Jiang Chun said with emotion. However, Nian Chang'e told Jiang Chun that no matter who they met here, they could not bully them. It was because the people of this world were hostile to outsiders. The most important thing was that there were very few cultivators in the flowing heaven realm, but it did not mean that there were no cultivators. And those who had cultivated successfully had terrifying combat strength that ordinary people could not imagine at all. Once, there was a godly realm cultivator from the flowing heaven realm who killed thousands of peerless geniuses in a fit of anger. Some people even said that at the same cultivation level, the cultivators of the godless continent were definitely no match for the cultivators of the flowing heaven realm. This was because the cultivators of the flowing heaven realm cultivated under the condition that the great Tao was incomplete. The difficulty of their cultivation was far beyond ordinary people's comprehension. Cultivating in this kind of vile environment caused their combat strength to become incomparably terrifying. Once, there was a cultivator from the flowing heaven realm who used some unknown method to enter the godless continent. That person had been glorious on the godless continent and was even invincible in the world. In the end, he fell because he stepped into the forbidden area. Don't cause trouble here, Nian Chang'e reminded. I never caused trouble, Jiang Chun said very seriously, but then his face fell and he muttered, I don't know if the others will cause trouble. The Great Heaven Prefecture has issued a warrant for arrest. At this moment, a loud and clear voice sounded in the small town. Then a picture scroll appeared in the sky above the town. There were 3 people in the picture scroll. They were the 3 virtuous beings. At the bottom right corner of the picture scroll was a line of words. These 3 have committed all kinds of evil. They robbed the treasury of the Great Heaven Prefecture, assassinated the eldest son of the Great Heaven Prefecture's prefecture master, and kidnapped the eldest daughter of the Great Heaven Prefecture's prefecture master. These 3 virtuous beings. Nian Chang'e was dumbfounded. How long had it been since they entered the flowing heaven realm? These 3 idiots had already caused trouble? Even Jiang Chun was speechless. Wasn't the speed of causing trouble a little too fast? Moreover, it was one thing for them to rob and kill people, but the 3 of them were a dragon, a vermilion bird, and a 9 netherworld phoenix. Why did they kidnap a human girl? Are all of you really that bored? It's my fault for not disciplining them. Jiang Chen's face darkened. He clenched his fists and the veins on his forehead bulged. It's time to discipline them. Discipline? By the time you find them, you'll probably be collecting their corpses, Nian Chang'e said angrily. The Great Heaven Prefecture was very famous in the flowing heaven realm. It also had a lot of prestige and status. Its foundation was also very deep. Now that the Great Heaven Prefecture had issued an arrest warrant, it meant that most of the powerhouses in the flowing heaven realm had already made their move. If these people found the 3 virtuous beings, they would probably be stewed into divine beast soup. With your combat strength, if you encounter a native of the flowing heaven realm in the same realm, what are your chances of winning? Jiang Chen asked. Nian Chang'e thought for a moment and couldn't help but stretch out a finger and wave it in front of Jiang Chun. Complete victory? Jiang Chen's eyes widened. In Jiang Chen's eyes, a finger was a 100% chance of winning. However, Nian Chang'e's face darkened. Only 10%. Jiang Chun was speechless. With Nian Chang'e's combat strength, she only had a 10% chance of winning against a cultivator of the flowing heaven realm in the same realm. Were the cultivators here really that terrifying? Chapter 517. Nian Chang'e was extremely powerful. Even Jiang Chun had never seen Nian Chang'e use his full strength. However, even with such terrifying combat strength, he only had a 10% chance of winning against the natives of the celestial flowing boundary. Jiang Chun found it hard to imagine how powerful the natives of the celestial flowing boundary were. The great Tao of heaven and earth here is incomplete. Cultivating here is much more difficult than cultivating on the godless continent. Nien Changa explained. Cultivating here for hundreds, thousands, or even tens of thousands of years might not be enough to enter the divine realm. However, once they enter the divine realm, their combat strength can almost rival that of a celestial being. They can even crush a celestial being. Jiang Chen was listening to them in silence, but he was worried about the three great virtuous virtues. Now that the great heaven abode had issued an arrest warrant, if the three virtuous beings fell into the hands of the great heaven abode, they would be severely injured even if they did not die. Most importantly, although the three virtuous beings were very powerful, they were far from being comparable to the natives of the celestial flowing boundary. If the three virtuous beings were found, it would be difficult to fight against them. You should think about yourself, Nien Changa said in a low voice. Everyone knows about your relationship with the three virtuous beings. Now that the three virtuous beings are wanted, you can't run away. You really know how to cause trouble, Jiang Chun said with a wry smile. Then, Jiang Chen and Nien Changa walked around the ancient town and inquired about some information. In the evening, Jiang Chen and Nien Changa planned to leave and continue to search for Jiang Lu and the others. However, at this moment, another arrest warrant appeared in the sky above the ancient town. This time, Wakako's portrait was on the arrest warrant. Wakako the tyrant killed the guards of the Great Heaven Abode and severely injured the ninth elder of the Great Heaven Abode. Jiang Chun was dumbfounded. What was wrong with these people? How long had it been since they entered the celestial flowing boundary? It hadn't even been a day. In less than a day, the three virtuous beings and Wakako had caused trouble? This can't be so coincidental, right? Are they all related to the Great Heaven territory? Jiang Chun furrowed his brows, feeling that something was fishy about this matter. Perhaps we should go to the Great Heaven Sanctum to take a look. Nien Changa said, these two incidents are both related to the Grand Heaven Abode. Can you believe that there are no secrets in them? Do you know where the Great Heaven territory is? Jiang Chun asked. Come with me, Nien Changa said softly. Then he took Jiang Chun and flew northwest. Along the way, Jiang Chun saw many trial takers as well as some natives. Both parties saw each other, but they did not greet each other. It was as if they did not see each other at all. No one wants to provoke anyone, Nien Changa said, but if we provoke these natives, it will be big trouble. Do you think it's possible to become friends with these natives? Jiang Chun asked. These natives were so powerful. If he could rope in a few of them, Jiang Chen's foundation would become even deeper. If he could befriend a few divine realm natives, then in this flowing heaven realm, who would Jiang Chun need to be afraid of? It's difficult. Nien Changa shook his head and said, they are hostile to us. It's basically impossible to befriend them. What the F*** CK? What's that? Suddenly, Jiang Chen's eyes narrowed. He saw a silk scroll appear in the sky above an ancient city thousands of miles away. Looking at it carefully, Jiang Chen's portrait was drawn on the silk scroll. At the same time, the people around Jiang Chen were also drawn on the scroll. I'm also wanted? Jiang Chen was confused and said, what did I do? This? Nien Changa was also depressed. He had been with Jiang Chen all this time, but he had never seen Jiang Chen go out to cause trouble. It's the Grand Heaven Abode again, Jiang Chen said in a low voice. Looking at the signature of the wanted poster, he saw the words, Grand Heaven Abode. Could it be that Jiang Chen and his group had offended the Grand Heaven Abode at the same time? However, Jiang Chen really didn't do anything. Could it be that he was implicated by the three great virtues? However, even if Jiang Chen was implicated, how could Hua Liani, Nayland Mayer, and the others be wanted? It seems that someone is targeting you, Nien Changa said in a low voice. Perhaps one of your enemies has a relationship with the Grand Heaven Abode and wants to kill you with the Grand Heaven Abode's hand. Who could it be? Jiang Chen frowned and said, Jiang Chen had too many enemies. Since the coronation of heaven and earth, almost everyone in the world was his enemy. Now, if it weren't for Jiang Chen's powerful combat strength, he wouldn't have had it so easy in the bloody road. The strongest holy sons of the Radiant God cult are all dead. Nien Changa analyzed. The holy son of the Black Cloud Mountain is also dead. Now, There are only a few people who are openly hostile to you and have the strength to fight against you. The holy son of the darkness sanctum? Jiang Chen frowned. This guy had schemed to turn Jiang Haoran and the others into demons. He was very shrewd. It could be him, or it could be someone else. Nian Chang'e said, for example, the holy son of the martial pavilion. Hearing this, Jiang Chen couldn't help but come to a realization. Since entering the bloody road, he hadn't seen the holy son of the martial pavilion. He hadn't even heard of the holy son of the martial pavilion. Then, was the holy son of the martial pavilion really behind the grand heaven abodes incident? Let's go and take a look first, Jiang Chen said softly. Then, the two of them continued to move forward. It took them a day to arrive at a plain in the northwest of the flowing heaven abode. The center of the plain was where the grand heaven abode was located. Moreover, there were obviously more cultivators here than in other places. Jiang Chen even saw a few immortal state cultivators. These immortal state cultivators were very old. Some of them had lived for tens of thousands of years, while others had lived for thousands of years. They had cultivated in the flowing heaven abode with the accumulation of time. Can you feel it? Nian Chang'e asked in a low voice. Yes, they're very strong. Jiang Chen's heart palpitated. He could feel a terrifying aura from those immortal state experts. That aura was no weaker than a Heaven's Blight expert. This is the grand heaven abode's land. You two outsiders should leave quickly. At this moment, an immortal state expert flew over. Although he didn't attack, his tone was very unfriendly. We're here, Nian Chang'e said. Do you know the Dark Holy Sun? Dark Holy Sun? I don't know him. The immortal state expert shook his head and said, there's only one outsider in the grand heaven abode. His name is Glittering Martial Tower. Glittering Martial Tower? Jiang Chen was puzzled. This was the first time he had heard this name. However, Nian Chang'e knew who Glittering Martial Tower was. This person was Glittering Martial Tower's son, the current holy son of the Martial Pavilion. It seems that the holy son of the Martial Pavilion is behind this, Nian Chang'e said softly. When he and Jiang Chen came here, they had disguised themselves. Therefore, they weren't afraid of being recognized. Now that they knew that Glittering Martial Tower was in the grand heaven abode, Jiang Chen and Nian Chang'e felt relieved. What should we do? Jiang Chen frowned. Glittering Martial Tower had established a relationship with the grand heaven abode and had settled in there. Even if Jiang Chen wanted to cause trouble for Glittering Martial Tower, he didn't know where to start. This was because not everyone could enter the grand heaven abode. Chapter 518. The Glittering Martial Tower had joined forces with the Great Heaven Palaces to target Jiang Chen and his group. If this matter was not resolved, Jiang Chen and his group would have a hard time in the Flowing Heaven world. They might even be killed by the natives of the Flowing Heaven world at any time. Just like now, Jiang Chen and his group, except for Wudong and Nian Chang'e, were all wanted. Anyone who had anything to do with Jiang Chen, including Jiang Haoran and the other two demons, were all wanted. If this matter was not handled properly, the consequences would be very serious. How did the Glittering Martial Tower enter the Great Heaven Palaces? Jiang Chen asked. The godly state expert shook his head and said, I'm not sure. It seems to have something to do with the Great Heaven Palace's patriarch. Oh? What is it? Nian Chang'e asked. It seems that they promised the Great Heaven Palace's patriarch to bring them out of the Flowing Heaven world and into the godless continent, the godly state expert said. At this point, the godly state expert could not help but reveal a trace of envy. The Flowing Heaven world had long been broken, and the laws and great Daos were incomplete. It was impossible for the people here to become gods. Although their combat strength was very strong, their great Daos were incomplete, and the Dao techniques they cultivated were also incomplete. The highest cultivation level of the cultivators here could only reach the Heaven's Decay 5th stage. Only by entering a complete world could they further cultivate, break through, and become gods. However, the living beings of the flowing heaven world could not leave this place by themselves. Their world was broken, and the great Tao aura in their bodies was also damaged. They would be rejected by the great Tao laws of the godless continent if they entered. Therefore, if the people of the flowing heaven world wanted to enter the godless continent, they needed a guide. Only the first 10 people to reach the end of the bloody path are qualified to bring one person out of this place, Nian Changa explained. This is a rule. This is not only a rule. The godly state expert said, the first 10 people to reach the end of the bloody path will be baptized by the heavens, and they will be freed from some of the laws and rules. Because of this, they can bring one person out of this place and enter the godless continent. However, with so many prodigies entering the bloody path, who would dare to say that they could do it? The first 10 people to reach the end of the bloody road not only needed strength, but also a great opportunity. Some people were extremely powerful and terrifying, but on the way to the end of the bloody path, if they encountered a lot of trouble, it would affect the speed of the people ahead. At that time, even with his strength, it would be difficult for him to enter the top 10. Glittering martial arts is very strong, but where does his confidence come from? Jiang Chen frowned. He then looked at Nian Changa and asked, is glittering martial arts that strong? Very strong. Nian Changa nodded, but a trace of contempt flashed in his eyes. He said, but compared to me, he is a little weak. If it weren't for his father, Lin Lang Wentian, supporting him from behind, he wouldn't be qualified to be the Martial Pavilion's holy son. As soon as these words came out, Jiang Chen's heart couldn't help but settle down a little. If glittering jewel martial tower couldn't even defeat Nian Changa, how could he defeat Jiang Chen? So he relied on his father to get to where he is, Jiang Chen muttered. At this moment, when the godly state expert heard Jiang Chen and Nian Changa's words, a ray of light flashed in his eyes. This person was not stupid. Hearing Jiang Chen and Nian Changa's words, he wondered if the two youths in front of him were stronger than glittering martial arts. Young heroes, may I know your names? The godly state expert asked. When Jiang Chen and Nian Changa heard that, they couldn't help but be stunned for a moment, not knowing what to say for a moment. They were so focused on disguising themselves that they didn't think of giving themselves a name. Now, giving a name at the last minute, this was too difficult, right? Do you want to leave here? Jiang Chen didn't answer directly. Of course. The godly state expert nodded and said, leaving the flowing heaven domain is the dream of all cultivators in the flowing heaven domain. Then if I could take you away from here, can you let us enter the grand heaven domain? Jiang Chen narrowed his eyes and said, we have something to discuss with the glittering martial arts. The grand heaven domain doesn't allow outsiders to enter. The godly state expert frowned and asked doubtfully, are you stronger than the glittering martial arts? You'll know when we see the glittering martial arts, Jiang Chen said. At that time, I believe the grand heaven domain will make the right choice. Let me think about it, the godly state expert muttered. He stood in place and frowned. After half an incense stick's worth of time, he said, wait for me here. I'll go inform the patriarch. With that, the godly state expert left. After half an incense stick's worth of time, the godly state expert returned with a middle-aged man behind him. Heavenly decay. This is one of the strongest cultivators in the flowing heaven domain, right? Jiang Chen and Nian Changa were shocked. How terrifying was the combat strength of a heavenly decay cultivator in the flowing heaven domain? If such a person went to the godless continent, even if he was not invincible, he could still dominate a region. Jiang Chen? The middle-aged man called out Jiang Chen's name as soon as he saw him. Jiang Chen wasn't surprised at all. After all, any disguise would be useless in front of a heavenly decay cultivator. What? You're Jiang Chen? The godly state expert exclaimed, and a trace of killing intent flashed in his eyes. However, before he could make a move, the middle-aged man waved his hand and said, what's the matter? Are you the mansion lord of the grand heaven domain? Jiang Chen asked. Yes. The middle-aged man nodded and said, Lu Yang of the grand heaven domain. Is the glittering martial arts in the grand heaven domain? Now, the Great Haven Manor is looking for us. Is it because of him? Jiangchen asked in a grave voice. Yes, so what? Lu Yang said. He can bring the Grand Ancestor or the Grand Heaven Domain out of here. But what if the two of us can do it? Jiang Chun said seriously. Moreover, I don't think the glittering martial arts can do it, right? At least he's very strong, Lu Yang said. I think the Grand Heaven Domain will only think of stronger cultivators, right? Nian Changa said, why don't you let me meet him and compare our strengths? If we're stronger than him, the Grand Heaven Domain will choose the two of us. What do you think? There are two of us, so we can bring two people out of the godless continent. However, the glittering martial arts only has one person, so we can only bring one person with us. Jiang Chun said, do you want to make this deal? My brothers are all experts. If we can reach the end of the bloody path in the top 10, we can bring more people from the Grand Heaven Domain out of here, Jiangchen said. As soon as he said that, a glimmer of light flashed in Lu Yang's eyes. There was even a hint of greed and excitement in the depths of his pupils. To be honest, Lu Yang also wanted to leave this place. Unfortunately, there was a Grand Ancestor in the clan, so he could only give the opportunity to leave the flowing Heaven Domain to that Grand Ancestor. Now, Lu Yang was secretly looking for some powerful trial takers. He wanted to use this opportunity to leave the bloody path. Now that Jiang Chun and Nian Changa had delivered themselves to his door, what reason did Lu Yang have to refuse? Moreover, even if the two of them were not as strong as the glittering martial arts, Lu Yang would not lose anything. You're tuning into the Warrior Lore YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.